810 WHB.
I'm at a Monday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe and Drake. We head up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. We'll talk some Major League Baseball today. We'll talk some NFL today, certainly. We will talk some Mick Schaefer today, which is a lot of things to get into and break down with that. But Matt Verderam joins us in the 11 o'clock hour from Sports Illustrated, covers the Kansas City Chiefs and the NFL overall. We'll get his thoughts on some things and some stories surrounding the Kansas City Chiefs and I don't even want to call it a budding rivalry. I think a rivalry that is now leapt to the top of the NFL in rivalries right now, as hot as it is with the Bengals and Chiefs and the fans that don't like each other, the players that have a distaste for each other, the public chirping that happens, and the point. Here's a counterpoint. Touche, sir. Back and forth. So we'll get into a conversation about that. Chris Jones, the contract, why he wasn't there on the ring ceremony. He tweeted out that he was sick, which is certainly it's interesting. It adds to the conversation, definitely.
It could be that aforementioned perfectly reasonable reason.
As I said about 20 times, look, everything that we're about to talk about, there might be a perfectly reasonable explanation. If there isn't, here's the conversation.
Yep.
If there is, oh, cool. But it's certainly of interest.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk about Chris Jones and the contract and things like that with Matt Verderam. There's a news story that includes Richie James as a signing by the Chiefs. So Richie James is now fighting to get as much pub as Justin Ross is getting. And also Matt Verderam, Sports Illustrated is doing their 32 teams in 32 days, and Matt Verderam was in charge of the Raiders. So being around the Raiders organization, writing about the Raiders, just curious as to some of the takeaways he had from a team the Chiefs will face twice with a new quarterback, and spent all of last offseason revamping that team and building it to where it can compete with the Chiefs after making the playoffs. And Derek Carr is now a Saint, and Devontae Adams is still a Raider. Darren Waller is not a Raider. Jimmy Garoppolo may or may not play this year for the Raiders. So there's a lot of things. So just curious as Matt Verderam's takeaway this early into, well, not even early into the preseason, or it's just now the dead period. At the beginning of the dead period, his thoughts on the Raiders. And then we'll talk with Josh Kaiser coming up at noon, KC Sports Network, also co-host of One Royal Way podcast. We'll talk with him about, some positives around this Royals team, damn it.
There's been at least one.
They won a game.
Sure did.
We are not talking about a 12-game losing streak. Understand? That's what it would be, right?
I think
they
that's
had
about
9
right.
on Friday, so it was a 10-game losing streak heading into Saturday.
Could have been 12.
The win meant that it was not 11. The loss yesterday would have meant that it was 12. But instead, they are playing 500 ball in the last 2 games. The Royals are. So we can look at the negative.
The official Royals account after the win tweeted the Royals are 1-0 in their last 1 games.
If people want to focus on the first 61 games and not the last 2, that's just looking for reasons to be negative.
Yeah, just enjoy baseball.
And it was a gorgeous day at the ballpark yesterday, and I got to see a couple things I've never seen in person before. I got to see a strikeout on a batter timer violation.
Yes.
And there was an intense discussion in the press box about how we scored that. I ended up coming up with a K on its side that looks like a little table.
Ooh, I
love
like
that.
that.
And then I saw a batter, actually the same guy that struck out on the batter timer violation, get out when he was hit by a batted ball on the base paths. And so we had to give the put out to the second baseman, which was Nicky Lopez got a put out, and he never touched the ball. I've seen it on television before, but never in person. So it was very exciting.
A historic weekend.
It was for me anyway.
There were 2 outs recorded yesterday in which the person that got credit for the out didn't actually take place in the event.
Yeah.
Nicky Lopez got the assist or the out, hit by the ball, as Drake said. And Zach Greinke didn't throw a pitch.
Didn't have to.
I would love to see a pitcher with 3 strikeouts on 8 pitches. The immaculate inning, right? When you have 3 strikeouts on 9 pitches. but 3 strikeouts and one of them is a pitch clock violation is like 3 strikeouts on 8 pitches. That's a
Theoretically, the new immaculate inning could be 3 strikeouts on 0 pitches. That's really immaculate.
That's a strike. It's a clock violation. That's a strike. Strike. You are out, sir. That is a.
If any pitcher in baseball was going to try to do that, it would be Zach Greinke. Like, if he got up there just kind of playing mind games with you, like, I think he and Johnny Cueto both could figure out a way to make that work for them.
But I loved it because Greinke wasn't really sure what to do.
Yeah.
He just dropped the ball on the mound. I was like, okay.
Did it stay on the mound?
No, it rolled off.
Oh, so you were watching for mound ball, right? I mean, everybody was. We don't play that, but I still watch in between. I'm like, oh, what if we were playing mound ball and it was my turn? What if both of those things would have happened? Ooh, what if I'd have won the lottery and I had those exact same numbers? Well, you got to play to win. Well, we weren't playing mound ball, so you can't win. And then what are the odds of all the people that were playing that would be good enough to collect said money if the ball would have landed on the mound and if I had been that person that particular inning? So, yes, I still watch when the umpire throws the ball up on the mound or when Greinke just drops the ball, which would have been a balk had he done that on the mound. I mean, but he did not. So,
good point.
Yeah, there was some. We were at the game for a Father's Day, so the family went out there and enjoyed ourselves and got to meet Slugger. Kids, that's
Big fan of the Zone, or
yeah,
Slugger got to meet you.
Slugger came up and he was like,
Was it Slugger or was it Slugger's dad?
both. Yeah, that was. By the way, I just recreated the conversation.
It was a good bit, but it's really for the video viewers.
Well, if you're listening on radio, this is how it went. Thanks, Slugger.
Great guy, not a great conversationalist. That Slugger.
I mean, it's very hard to hear him. He's more into making different. You know what? He's a nonverbal language. That's what he is. He's a nonverbal
exactly right.
communicator and a very good nonverbal communicator. So we had that. My son at the Little K was getting ready to swing. And a very anxious worker came over there and told him, "You're too tall," and then measured him with a lot of people watching. Measured him, and the measurement went right up to where your head starts to like go up to a point. So if you're watching on the tube,
Yeah,
it was about right here.
sure.
So it's about a half inch. And I said, if he takes his shoes off, it would still be he'd
Yeah,
be
he
under.
should swing
are we
barefoot
measuring
here.
with that?
Then Shoeless
And
Joe.
she was very much a stickler for the rules.
Okay.
And then to the point that she actually embarrassed my son,
Yeah.
who put the bat down and walked out of the cage, very sad and embarrassed. So I thought that was a really fun one for Father's Day.
Yeah, that's a good vibe.
to have the kid wait in line for
Yeah.
a good 25 minutes in the sun.
Yeah, even better.
To get up there, to have the bat in his hands, and to get ready to swing, and for her to walk 20 yards over, grab the stick, and then measure it next to him, and have it fall a quarter of an inch too high, and then to tell him to leave. After we had given the token, paid.
You had to pay for this also?
Oh, it's $2 a piece.
Unbelievable.
So we've got an extra token now. If we ever want to go out there and have him not swing, don't worry. Jules got to swing.
That's great.
I said, "Hey, Juliet, hurry up before you have a growth spurt. Hurry up and hit. No, hurry up. You're
45 more minutes, honey.
You're growing very quickly.
We're
You're
really
growing
worried about
very
this.
quickly.
We can't have you damaging any of this equipment.
No, not at all.
I haven't heard a good story about a Royals thing in like 6
just-
months.
I was shocked. We waited in line so long.
Yeah.
And
But did Vinny hand you his bobblehead? Because he was evidently handing out his bobblehead yesterday. Yeah.
No, I did
I
not
saw
see
some
that,
people.
no.
I saw some people
We did get the
apparently
bobbleheads,
open.
though.
Have you opened the bobbleheads?
Yes.
Are both of them in there?
Yeah.
I saw at least one person tweet out Nicky Lopez simply not being in their bobblehead.
Oh,
I have
no.
not verified this. It could have been. I have no. But I saw someone
no.
tweeting just it's in the bag and it's just Vinny, and in a space where Nicky Lopez used to be in front of him.
Yes, for the Lion King, and it's a great pose. It's a fun
great.
bobblehead.
Great bobblehead.
Having fun with when they did the Lion King thing. But yes, both. At least the one that I opened, because the family got 3.
Yeah.
So me, my wife, my son. So I opened up one of them to see, and so that particular one had both Vinny and Nicky there. I also thought it interesting. It had a sleeve on his right arm, so I didn't know if maybe that was just in general, or if they went ahead
Yeah.
and did that after the fact and said, well, let's just go ahead and do those things.
Are they both frowning now on the bobblehead, just looking kind of sad?
No, they were very happy. So that was fun. We got popcorn for little man, or for little miss. Little man.
Little man was too tall for the popcorn.
Yeah,
you
it was-
paid for the popcorn, and they
odd.
just threw it in his face.
He wanted a snow cone in in one of those helmets, and like, sorry, son, your head's too big for this helmet. 2 weeks ago, you probably could have had this snow cone in a helmet. I was really taken aback at like the going out of the way to walk
It's
over
really
there
bizarre, man.
and then have the bat in his, and the guy, she had to stop the guy from throwing the pitches. She had to like stop and like, hold on.
Are you sure he didn't have like a hitter's violation? Is that why did he strike out on a clock violation?
I could not believe it. And the worst part is like how embarrassed he was.
Yes.
Like he felt like
Yeah,
really
no, there's
embarrassed.
you probably don't need to, get your sheriff's badge out for a kid that's a quarter inch too tall for the little K.
Yeah.
Just be glad you've got anybody at the ballpark. Let him hit. Jason should have gotten a hit for that sake.
You
I
know
mean,
what
what are we
should have
doing?
stepped up like, fire it down the plate. Come on, let me see what you got.
Anyone at the
Give
K.
me the heat.
Anyone at the K when the team is under, let's say under,
Yeah.
what's the winning percentage right now?
Yeah,
260. If you're under 300, everyone gets to swing. Everybody.
They were 19-51 and making sure that some kids that are Royals fans can't have as much fun as they would have had out there.
The farm system at this point.
No.
They almost have too much talent. You can't be trying to
No.
court younger talent.
No, go over there to the speed gun that the line is half a mile long. Go over there and see how fast you can throw. Or get in the batting cages, which is also a half mile long. Go do that. You can ride the merry-go-round. Well, the merry-go-round seems like it's for little kids. Well, sorry, I guess you're too big for the merry. Yeah, apparently.
Too tall.
Wait, why do you want me to ride the merry-go-round? You just told me that I'm the size of Manute Bowl.
Maybe the messaging was just bad. Did they pull him out of the little K to go try to sign him to a minor league contract? I could see him in rookie ball.
It was like Rookie of the Year. They walked over and was like, JJ, get me that bat. Trying to recreate the get me that arm.
That's they saw
Rookie
something
of the Year.
special there.
Yeah, that's they saw something special. There was something special that took place there at that particular
He'll
time.
toil in the minors for 10
Yes.
years, get traded to the Rays, and be an all-star.
It was great though. It was great. All right, so conversation I didn't expect to have.
I'm glad we did. This is great.
Because we got back and my brother was like, "Is that going to be on the show?" I'm like, no, I'm not going to mention that.
I'm not gonna
but-
complain about that. No, it's weird. Don't show up little kids for being a little bit too
Just,
tall. That's
I
fine.
don't know. Apparently, it still bothered me. I don't know.
It bothers me a little bit.
913-912-4810
How bothered are
is
you?
the text line. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation if you want to do that. So that's how the show lines up. We'll talk with Mick Schaefer, who also is too big for the little K. Ooh, is it a little K to strike out without with the pitch clock violation? So like
Yeah,
a
I
very,
think-
very small, like you need a microscope to look at it. You can, like how they would little small like people that put together like cities and like
Yes.
villages that
Yeah, they model cities and stuff.
and like putting a little tree on or a little guy standing outside of a house.
Yeah, tiny
You've got
little magnifying
the
glass.
magnifying glass
You
and
just keep it in
everything.
your binder or
Yeah.
something for your
What
scoring.
if it's that guy writing a K?
I think this works because now what
It's
it
a little
is
K.
it's actually the strikeout when someone in a position of authority pulls you out of the batter's box. And
right.
You don't get to swing.
That's exactly
and you
right.
strike out. It's a little K. Full circle.
I think we've got to the bottom of this.
I think we have.
I saw 3 people get forced to leave the batter's box without swinging the bat. Or 2 people. I saw 3 people get out without actually doing anything. Getting hit by a ball, and Nicky Lopez got credit for the out. Whatever the dude's name is, struck out on the pitch clock violation, and little man struck out on a inch violation.
One more.
On a-
Renifo, is that how you say his name?
I
Did you
can't
say
remember.
Renfo?
Renifo?
Oh.
That was the guy that got. Yeah, Renifo. That sounds right. One more thing. You're gonna have to make a change in your life. Can't be little man anymore.
Exactly right.
Giant Hulk of a man is how we will now be referring to your son.
Well, he was wondering if he can now take over the job of Pasquatch in left field.
I
It's like,
think he
that guy's
should.
not there. I'm like, well,
He might be too big to be Pasquatch. Sasquatch only supposed to be 7 or 8 feet tall.
All right, let's get into the show. 913-912, unless this is already it. I'm not sure.
I don't know. This feels
It's
like
a Monday.
show.
It's
Yeah.
a Monday. The Royals are 19-52, and the Chiefs are a month away from reporting to training camp. July 19th through the 21st, the first practices for the Chiefs, 19, 20, 21, before they are open to the public for the public to be able to go and watch. So what is report date July 18th then?
It just
If the
keeps getting
first
earlier and
practice is
earlier.
July 19th, the report date would be July 18th, right?
Stand to reason.
But you could also get there as early as tomorrow if you wanted to.
Yeah, just get to
the-
St.
for the-
Joe and
for the
just
Chiefs,
go and
yes.
get your
Are
room.
you going to get to? It's like pitchers and catchers reporting, and then like position players will show up at the same time. Very excited to be here. It's like report day is July 18th. It's June 20th. I wanted to be here.
I'm excited.
Very excited to be here. And pumped. It's about defending the crown.
I have one semi-serious Royals-Angels
Right.
attendance question for you before we get into anything that leaves
Yes.
baseball in the lurch. You went to the game and saw Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout go back to back.
No, we were standing in line to hit at the
My
Little
God,
K.
no, you weren't. That's not when
Swear
you
to
were.
God.
No!
Swear to God,
No!
we were in line
Oh, Jason, no!
to hit at the Little K
Not hit.
when Shohei and Trout went back to back. True story.
What I was gonna say is that if you're a Royals fan that went and you saw the Royals lose, but you saw Trout and Ohtani go back to back, I think that's pretty much all you could ask for. That was gonna be my take. I was gonna see if that was true in your experience, but I was just hoping beyond hope that wouldn't have all collided with the first story.
On our walk back, we stopped to watch Ohtani's next at bat in which he struck out. And then in the top of the ninth, we were like, hell yeah, because Ohtani's going to bat until Fermin turned into the greatest catcher to throw guys out at second base and caught stealing. And whoever the tool is that tried to steal second, up 3 with 1 out, and he gets thrown out. And I'm like, oh great, Taylor Ward is now going to be the third out. All I need is Taylor Ward to get on. And then he smokes one into right field, and Beatty, who can't judge a pop up 5 feet from him, to go to second, and gets thrown out at second on the force out from Salvi that the ball was clearly going to drop. There was no way that ball was going to be caught. Somehow reads it right off the bat from Taylor Ward and runs down the ball into right field and makes the catch at the wall so that Ohtani ends in the on-deck circle. That was the day yesterday. All of that, we had a blast. It
Yeah.
was a fun day out at the K with the kids. Everett, about an hour later, didn't think anything of it. He was having his popcorn. He was enjoying himself. He wanted to see Ohtani hit. He really wanted a foul ball to hit back where we were. And I said that would take a Herculean effort. And that's not happening because Ohtani, if he's going to hit it a long way, it's usually that way.
Well, and
but
if
yeah,
he would
had
have,
fun.
if he would have caught a foul ball, it would have just been good form for him to give it to a little kid. I mean, not to keep it for himself, the big hulking adult that he is.
That's right. He would have been. He would have been made fun of on SportsCenter.
Yes.
How about this kid keeping the foul ball from that 8-year-old over there?
How about
that
this
kid's
grown
7. Let me see the birth certificate. Let me
on.
see the birth certificate of that kid.
Come on.
My nephew's first ever baseball game was yesterday.
That's exciting.
So that's cool.
Drake, how was it seeing
Is it
Ohtani
like-
and Trout go back to back?
It was pretty fantastic. It really was because they're both.
I heard it.
I think they're both Hall of Famers, and I think Greinke has a legit shot at it too,
Yeah.
and they hit him off of him, and wow.
It's one of the only things that
I heard it.
would entice me to a Royals game. I really considered going out there for one of the Angels games. Didn't do it, of course, but said I was too tall.
No, you could have gone to the Little K and
I could have hit some dingers,
no,
man.
they would have measured your hair. Your hair would have been what got you.
I would have shaved my head. I could have gotten
Like
through.
honestly, if he took off his shoes, he would have been. I was gonna be like,
Just do it again.
Take
Hey,
your shoes
kid,
off,
take your
man.
shoes off. We're measuring again.
no, do it again.
Crush this bleep.
Sorry, he has lifts in his shoes. Take the shoes off. It
Has he
makes-
considered trying to go to the Little K down either North Kansas City, maybe the East Village? Any other little Ks that we could build for him?
It's funny now.
Yeah, no, it sounded like
I'm
it could've-
having
could've
having
been
fun with it now.
Traumatizing at the moment.
And he's got a baseball game tonight, so we're gonna have to bring the birth certificate
Yeah,
because
gonna have
it's
to.
it's 7 and under.
He's off cycling right now, right? I
league.
think this is when Little League starts testing. I don't want him to get dinged, man.
No, I'm gonna have one of the other kids pee for him. We got the Whizzinator. Bought him the Whizzinator for his Easter Bunny. Brought him the Whizzinator. Knew that baseball was getting ready to start. So
Out of the year right here,
who
man.
was that for the Vikings? What was his name? That
I can't remember.
that got caught with the Whizzinator.
I'm on it. Ontario Smith.
Ontario Smith.
You Google
I was going to say
Whizzinator.
Chris Smith, but Smith. Hey, you just Google Whizzinator. and
Yeah,
you're
the
gonna come up
official site of synthetic urine.
synthetic?
Whizzinator.com.
with- Okay. I need to wipe the tears away from this segment.
Keep that one off Twitch. Hey, I don't know what I expected.
No.
All right.
Yeah,
I just look. Hey, that one's a just tap, hand up. That one's on me. Don't go to the
your fault.
website.
It's your fault. All right, we'll take a time out. We'll come back, and we will talk about, let's talk the, I was going to mention the U.S. Open.
Oh, yeah.
And Wyndham Clark getting the win. And just a little curious if we're going to see the beginning of kind of a run that some stars have gone on before, some stars in golf. Whereas the dude at the PGA Championship that I can't even remember his name now, who was the big story at the PGA Championship, and then, he got to go the next week and whatever that tournament was, and he's at the PGA next year, and et cetera, at Valhalla, but I don't remember that guy's name. This, I think, is going to be different, so we could talk about that. A bad story in West Virginia with Bob Huggins, who has resigned from West Virginia, arrested for DUI. The details are pretty incredible with Bob Huggins. Samad Taylor did have an awesome MLB debut. Sporting KC got screwed. And DeAndre Hopkins might have some issues if the Patriots were to sign him, or even signing with the Patriots. Issues as in being wanted or conforming to the Patriot way or money, which is kind of a tie-in with the Chiefs. So we'll get into all of those things. Again, Matt Verderam joins us at 11 o'clock, Sports Illustrated. Josh Kaiser at noon, KC Sports Network, and the co-host of One Royal Way podcast, Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director. Learn Funniest Best, all still to come here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll get into some text, 913-912-4810. But again, we'll talk some U.S. Open coming up next, and what I think could be on the horizon for Wyndham Clark, and a guy that we won't forget his name over the next couple of months. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810.
913-912-4810. Text line's pretty good. Text line says, maybe you should take Little Big Man to Worlds of Fun, see if he can stay hot and get kicked out of the Zambezi Zinger line.
I think Little Big Man is a permanent one. That one's got to stick around. I think that is from now on.
Maybe next time have Everett slouch.
Yeah, come on. Like, at least drop your shoulders some.
Text says, the reason the lady brought up the stick was the mustache your son has. That is true, yes. The facial hair was a dead giveaway that this guy's probably a little too big to be in the Little K.
That Goose Gossage?
The fact that, like, it went to where his head sort of curved at the top, where it peaks at the top. Like, if you're a 4-year-old Conehead, you can't be in there. Like, there's
no
zero
shot.
chance. If you're a member of the family of the Coneheads.
If you're the top half of your body looks like Patrick Starr, you will not get to swing at the Little K. It does not matter how tall
If you're
you are.
a kid of Dan Aykroyd, it's no chance.
No shot.
Of you being at the Little K.
You see that fourth Indiana Jones movie? None of those aliens are hitting at the Little K.
That's right. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. Wyndham Clark, who at first I thought was a hotel at a resort.
Can't believe this is a real person.
Like, you have a conversation with somebody at a place at, like, Cabo, and you're at a restaurant downtown Cabo or something. Like, where are you guys staying? Oh, we're at the Wyndham. Which one? Clark. Oh, we're at the Baja. We're at the Wyndham. How's the Wyndham Clark? It's pretty good. We like it. The all-inclusive stuff. Oh, they've got this all-inclusive cheeseburger bar that's pretty awesome. What about the Baja? It's pretty cool, but we've been talking about going to the Wyndham Clark for a while. So,
got a great open floor plan just for us.
View of the ocean is beautiful. The ocean is absolutely gorgeous from the Wyndham Clark. So he wins yesterday. I would be lying if I...
Devastating news for Lovelace Smith, who finished second.
I'd be lying if I didn't say that I was rooting vehemently against him because I wanted Rory to win.
Yeah, sure.
I like Rory.
Yeah.
Rory. I love Rory, and I wanted Rory to get... I said on Friday Rory was going to win the U.S. Open because he shot like the 8 under on Thursday. I'm like, Rory in these majors ends his entire tournament on Thursday. Like, in these majors, he goes out on Thursday and it's like 4 over. And then he battles back and has a good Saturday, and then he gets into it, then has an amazing run on Sunday to come within 4 strokes. but he started off Friday, 9 strokes behind. And I'm like, you know what? This guy is right there with the leaderboard. He's going to win. I didn't expect Wyndham Clark to do what he did, but I think, did you look up what the other guy's name is? That we forgot from the PGA Championship?
I had forgotten so hard that I couldn't even figure out how to find him. So
I forgot so hard.
The PGA Championship was happening over the weekend of my wedding, and I was not paying attention, so I missed that entire story.
You're fine.
I saw Brooks Koepka won it, and I was like, that's probably not him. I remember his name.
And I was also rooting vehemently against the person that won that one as well.
Sure.
But the amazing thing that I find about Wyndham Clark is people have been talking about him apparently for like 8 years as like he's going to be, he's supposed to be this really good golfer, but hasn't put it together for whatever reason. The main storyline yesterday was about his mother dying 10 years ago. And he talked a lot about that in the press conferences and everything. Ricky Fowler, who was in the final group with him, who I think just refuses to ever win a major, quite literally, like, no, I refuse to win a major. I'm going to go into this final round and I'm going to play five over in the final round because I will not win a major. Damn it! But he hugged him at the end and said, "Your mom would be proud of you." So like the story is really cool from that standpoint, right? Even though it's Father's Day, but having the conversation around his mother. It's a guy who was barely making some cuts, in the last few years and was kind of just toiling in his career. And all of a sudden this year, something clicked with him when he finished top 10 at the Phoenix Open. We were down there for the Super Bowl, and Mick Schaefer was turning away from all of his responsibilities at work for KSHB to be at the Waste Management Phoenix Open.
Doesn't sound like something Mick would do.
No, not at all.
Sterling says it's Michael Block, by the way.
Michael Block, yeah,
Thanks,
that's right.
Stu.
Yeah, because I always wanted to say, I kept wanting to say Barry Block from Barry. TV show on HBO, very good one.
You need to watch
But he finishes top 10 at the Waste Management Open, and that was in February. And then in March at the Valspar, he finishes 5th. And the next weekend, he finishes 6th. And then at the Zurich Classic, he finishes 3rd. And then he wins the Wells Fargo in May. And then in June, earlier this year, he finishes top 12 at the Memorial. And then he wins the U.S. Open just 2 weeks later. He made a pretty good living. So from 2017 to the beginning of this year, 2017 to February, 2017 until February of this year, he had made in his career, because he had made some cuts, and it's like, oh, this weekend he made $100,000. Okay, a month later he made $120,000. Until February of this year, from 2017, he had made $5.6 million. It's pretty lucrative to play golf.
It's a good
made
living.
$5.6 million from 2017 until February. Since February, he's made $9.5 million. Woo! Since February, because he won the Wells Fargo, in which he won $3.6 million. And he won the U.S. Open yesterday, in which he took home $3.6 million. 9.5 gets a pretty good start when 2 tournaments get you 7.2.
Yeah.
But that's 2 tournament wins in the last month. A top 5 at the Valspar, top 10 at the Phoenix Open, top 3 at the Zurich, number 12 at the Memorial. This is all in the last 3 months. And this is a guy that people have talked about, so much talent, but he can't put it together. And so it's like, okay, did something click around February, March, when he just started playing good golf? And now he's won 2 tournaments in the last month without having ever won a tournament before. His first win was May 7th. And then he wins the U.S. Open. This, to me, is so much different than Michael Block, and that story is now I wonder if, like, Wyndham Clark becomes somebody over the next 2 years that we're talking about more in the, maybe not Brooks Koepka or DJ or something like that, but in a name that you sort of throw in the mix of somebody that didn't come out of nowhere, and we talk about a resort hotel that it sort of sounds like, that it just becomes more and more of a, oh, there's Wyndham Clark in the final round in the top 10 of the leaderboard and has a chance to make some noise here.
Yeah, and I'm coming to this from a pretty like golf casual entire life and upbringing. My dad's not a big golf guy or
So
anything
you're coming
like that.
from it from the same spot I am.
So right, so and I preface it that way because I know that I'm going to say this and like Mick might get here a few hours early just to like smack me in the head. When I say that it feels like golf is sort of always playing a little bit of like Tiger catch up, just because you had a superstar who did totally transcend your sport and brought, at least for me, it brought an extra level of interest in the sport altogether, which isn't to say that right now there aren't household names in golf. There absolutely are. But figuring out how to build up your sport that way and to find guys who can continually become household names, you do find your little rivalries, which golf has been pretty good at facilitating recently. And with LIV and everything, it added a whole new flavor, although I don't think that was ever the goal. But I am perpetually interested in this part of the story, and I like the sort of looking at the runway to say, hey, is this a blip on the radar or is this a pattern for Wyndham Clark? And if golf can continue to find more of these guys who can not just win one, but stay around long enough for us to get to know them, that's only good for the sport continuing to be more interesting.
I think it was trying to force the Michael Block because it's a cool story that day.
Yes,
and he got invited the next week and all of that stuff. But he wasn't sort of viewed as this guy is really talented, but for some reason is in his own head and is his worst enemy. And maybe it's part of, his mom dying and sort of at that point, his life sort of changing and not being able to put everything together. I'm not sure, but he's done it now in back-to-back months when, he wins the Wells Fargo, and then a month later he wins the U.S. Open 2 weeks after finishing top 12 in the Memorial. And taking home $500,000 in that one. So his last 2 tournaments, he's made $4 million. It's like this month he's made $4 million, and again he made 5.6 in his entire career leading into this. So.
And Michael Block's 47, and Wyndham Clark, I think I saw, is 29,
He's 29
right?
years old, yeah.
I mean, so continuing to just sort of see, the longer you can stick around, the more chances we're going to have to, especially in individual sports, and having Americans is good for an American viewership, not necessary, but can be helpful. But you actually have to get to know these individual people to figure out who you're rooting for. Most of these guys, in team sports, you have the advantage of this is my team, so I'm rooting for these dudes. and kind of finding your horses to back, for a completely unnecessary metaphor, is a little bit of a different game in golf.
If his winnings have jumped that much in 2 months, what have his sponsorships done?
Yeah.
Well, that's. I mean, I bet they're about to be.
What are
through
they
the
about
roof.
to do?
They're
Yeah.
about to go through the roof right now. I will say that. So, yeah, it was a really cool story. And I was rooting on Sunday morning for Ricky Fowler because I want to. He's too good to not have a major in his career, and I just don't know if it's ever going to happen for him. That was as good of a chance as he's had, obviously with leading 54 holes and being in the final pairing. Obviously rooting for Rory. Now Rory's got a number of majors underneath his belt, but I want to see him win another one after going through this long drought of not winning one and seeing some of these other golfers come up and win major after major after major, and Rory just sort of being there. And again, I'm a Rory fan, so I want to see him win. So I don't know, maybe moving forward, I'll find myself rooting more for Wyndham Clark. I probably will, just because now I know a little more about him, and it's not maybe a one-off story of, oh, that's cool, and then he goes off into the sunset and we never hear from him again. And instead it would have been like, oh, I would remember the U.S. Open on Father's Day that Rory won. I guess every U.S. Open's on Father's Day, but you get the point. Mm-hmm. I would remember that one. Like, I remember the Masters when Tiger won, and it was like that Saturday and Sunday and what I was doing and where I was at when those shots were being made. I think a lot of Oklahoma State fans would remember if, Ricky Fowler and Ricky Fowler fans, although I do wonder if Mick Schaefer claims Wyndham Clark, because he went to Oklahoma State for a couple of years and then transferred to Oregon.
He claimed him at Sound Off last night, just off air.
Okay, seems like no rules apply to that then.
I think Mick's going to take any Oklahoma State golf success he can find.
Is that Oklahoma State on Oklahoma State crime? With he and Ricky playing in the final pairing and Ricky sort of just succumbing to the elements?
It's more of, those great Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon battles. They're both Hendrick guys, but I mean, you still got to have a winner. So you really just your team is dominating the sport. I think that's where Mick's going to go.
I also enjoy that Wyndham Clark had Paul Azinger give bad analysis 3 times on one shot. So it was the 9th when it was the greenside bunker that he, chipped up to the slope and then had it run down within like 6 feet of the cup. But he chipped it to like 20 feet away, right, and then used the slope. And as he's setting up way left of the hole of the pin, Azinger's going, well, there's no chance he's going to get it. If he's hitting it that far away, there's no chance he's going to be able to get this close to the cup. He should be, taking a different route. So he chips it up, and it lands at the top of the slope, and it looks like it stops. And Azinger was like, he just killed this one. Just killed it. And it started to roll down, and I can't remember who was doing play-by-play. It was like, well, he's using the slope and the hill here. And Azinger goes, yeah, but that's not going to get close. It doesn't have nearly enough. And it just kept rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. And it got within 6 feet. And like in a matter of 30 seconds, Paul Azinger got 3 things really wrong about it. And Twitter seemed to want to let him know about that.
Good. Yeah, fun.
I mean, a lot of the reaction was like, hey, Paul, maybe go and walk the course a little bit. Maybe go and see what the course is doing, because almost everybody that was watching was like, well, no, he's playing it the right way, the slope. Now, if he didn't hit the slope, yes, if he hit it a little bit further, he almost missed it. That's the thing. He almost missed the slope because it looked like it stopped. But once it got on that, it rolled and rolled, and then, by the way, he putts it and saves par. No, it was a beautiful up and down from where he was. It was like, oh, this could be disaster on the 9th hole, as he leading by, I think, 1 stroke at that time over Rory. And then we had the amazing Rory shot that got embedded in the side of the sand, where they had to actually give him a drop. He got to take it out of the dirt that was like, or the grass where it was embedded, and then get to drop on top of it. Like, it was a great break for Rory. So it was enjoyable, and I liked it. And I also liked hearing all the stories of Joe Pampliano of Los Angeles Country Club as to why there were no fans in attendance.
Yeah, that's a
and how
thing.
just how the U.S. Open became closed for a lot of people,
Yep.
really is what it is. We will talk some football. We'll hang out with Matt Verderam coming up at 11 o'clock from Sports Illustrated at noon. Josh Kaiser, KC Sports Network. We'll talk some Royals baseball with him. Mick Schaefer coming up at 1 o'clock. More zone rolling along. Still want to get into the story around Bob Huggins and the local aspect to that. DeAndre Hopkins, Samad Taylor, Sporting KC. All of that still to come as we roll along in this Monday edition of The Zone at Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 W.
All right, so I was watching over the weekend, and I couldn't figure out why it didn't feel like there were many fans at the U.S. Open. It was crazy. Like, there would be a shot that's hit into the rough or hit by the trees, and then there's nobody around it. It was kind of a note. I'm like, maybe they're somewhere else. And then reading, Joe Pompliano's story about the Los Angeles Country Club being one of the most exclusive golf clubs with the $250,000 initiation fee, and a tax loophole that saves them $80 million annually. Every year they save $80 million on a tax loophole, which around here, who really cares? But the true value of the land that it is on is $8 billion, with an assessed value of $22 million. I feel like that's the exact opposite for people around here in Jackson and Johnson County with the value of the homes with the tax. It's like, hey, by the way, your home just went up 50%. On the surface, it's like, yeah, all right, I can go. Except, oh, by the way, if you want to sell, you can get 8% APR right now, or you can stay where you're at with the financing rate you probably have before all of the stuff went crazy, while we double your assessment so we can get more taxes. It's the exact opposite. An $8 billion land assessed at $22 million, saving them roughly $80 million per year. But like the crazy part about there were 23,000 fans that made it this weekend, which there's some U.S. Opens that are like 50,000 fans. Close to 14,000 of those were allotted for suites and hospitality tents, meaning there were 9,000 tickets available for general admission. Of the 9,000, roughly half were going to be allotted to the public because the Los Angeles Country Club bought up to 4,500 of those tickets and were trying to buy every single ticket so that general admission fans could not get on their course and walk around on their course.
And Oakmont, 50,000 fans per day.
Per day. LA Country Club was trying to buy up all of the tickets so that Joe Fan couldn't walk on their country club, couldn't be there on their grounds. Please never go back there. Never go back to the L.A. Country Club again.
Did you know that there's already one scheduled to go back to the L.A. Country Club?
Please take it away.
In 2039.
Well, I'm going to be pissed. Leading into 2039, I'm going to be pretty mad. Mark my words. Mark my words. Right, mark it.
Hey, Siri, how far in advance can you set reminders?
In 16 years, when I'm getting ready to turn 59 years old, I'm going to be pissed that the L.A. Country Club... And by the way, at that time, Everett still won't be at the Little K. So
no,
he
still too
still
tall.
will not be allowed to be at the Little
K.
K.
Still too tall. And we won't be allowed at the LA Country Club.
He's going to be 23 years old when it's at the LA Country Club again, standing in line with his kid at the Little K, who's going to be too tall as well, and that kid's going to be 3.5. But like some of the details of the story from Joe Pompliano are just, I mean, it's embarrassing for golf to be there with the U.S. Open, and whether that affects, people that are just watching, whatever. But just the idea that you have it at a place that is trying to keep anybody from going and participating and enjoying. So you got 4,000 fans that are there that are just regular common folk that would brave the traffic and the elements to be able to get there to watch golf. I was wondering why it was sort of a lower ambiance to the course, but now I know. And that same place is $8 billion tax break.
It is genuinely frustrating because so often we talk about the atmosphere of sports. Like we got to see this forcefully during the entire pandemic, where we had either no fans or limited fans, and we saw that actually affects the product on television, affects your enjoyment. Would you not like the U.S. Open to feel like a fun time? I mean, we mentioned Waste Management Open in Arizona.
Love it.
It's become a a circle your calendar type of date for the golf schedule because it feels like a party. And meanwhile, you have so much of golf, and I know some of this is just sort of like inherent to golf, but trying to make it as exclusive as possible really sucks some of the energy out of it.
LACC is owned by its members, so therefore it's a nonprofit.
I bet it is.
And with
yeah, I bet.
And with the some of the rules there in LA that the nonprofits are taxed at a lower rate, and also there's another proposition whatever number that rolls back the value to 1975 levels, and it can only raise by like 2% every year. So pretty much, it's worth $8 billion, and that's why it's assessed at only $22 million right now with that land. You would think with all of that stuff that they have that they would open it up more to the public for even the U.S. Open, but oh well, that's just what the common folk and the little 99%ers, like me, would. And I wouldn't even be out there to watch it, but
it's so blatant.
Yeah, but hey, Wyndham Clark won. So there you go. There's the takeaway. I don't even know if that's the takeaway or not. Not sure.
You can't take much away because you're not getting in.
That's true. All right, so we'll get into the Chiefs a little bit on the other side with Matt Verderam.
We will only be allowing 14 people to listen to that segment, though,
right.
So we're going to have to make some cut downs. Also, you've got to be under 4'6".
Yes. We're going to take all of the radio waves away from most every listener. And
Drake,
then we're selling suites out here to.
We should do that, actually.
So
Build those.
people can come and watch.
Drake, can we aim the radio waves down just so tall people can't hear it?
Yeah.
I think we could do that, right?
Son won't be able to listen then.
No, not allowed. I need only people
Can only listen.
shorter than Little Big Man.
I have to figure out something so Nate can keep working here. But
Give him the headphones. We should ask him what he enjoys of the little cat.
A lot of stuff to get into. Still going to talk about Bob Huggins, Samad Taylor, Sporting KC getting screwed. A lot of stuff to talk about today on this Monday edition.
Together, we're elevating our potential, our pride, our tradition.
I will continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe and Drake. We head up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Mick Schaefer coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. Josh Kaiser, KC Sports Network, will be our guest coming up at noon. Talking some Royals, also a co-host of One Royal Way podcast, and get his thoughts on, you know what, some fun things from the weekend. Samad Taylor gets called up, Major League debut, walk-off hit on Saturday. That was fun. Sunday morning, he's on MLB Network, and big story there along with Austin Cox and what he's been able to do in a little less than 9 innings pitched and no hits, no earned runs, 3 walks, 9 Ks, another inning last night or yesterday afternoon, I should say. And with them DFAing Mike Myers, is Austin Cox now going to start on Thursday and move into the starting rotation? We'll see. Is he a long relief guy that may be an opener and he's the guy that follows the opener? But somebody has to fill the role of Mike Myers, who was DFA'd, and hopefully that is Austin Cox getting that opportunity. We'll talk to him about that and certainly some other things as well. As we get ready to talk some football with Matt Verderame, this story coming out of Boston, which I find to be interesting, and a lot of different ways to go with this one as it can relate back to the Chiefs, and that is Tom Curran, NBC sports reporter there in Boston, went on the radio show in Boston on WEEI and was talking about DeAndre Hopkins leaving without a signed contract, and that not being a coincidence with the Patriots being wary of multiple aspects of signing Hopkins to a free agent contract. And he says, quote, "And what I hear is I think people in the building are still wary to an extent of the culture fit. How much does he want to practice? What kind of hoops are the Patriots themselves going to have to jump through to accommodate the way he likes to approach the game?" Curran didn't rule out the idea the Patriots could sign Hopkins on their terms. Quote, "I just don't think it'll be a hard sell in which they're saying, you are our missing piece. But I do think they'll say, look, you're a piece that's going to make everybody better here." That is it's an interesting sort of report out of Boston with the Patriots. He visited the Titans. He visited the Patriots. And if the conversation around DeAndre Hopkins is, well, what's the fit with the Chiefs, and would the Chiefs be willing to pay that amount of money? And I had said once we heard, $8 to $10 million might have been the asking price for his market, and he may get that. But I don't think he's going to sign until close to training camp, maybe even after that. So I didn't expect him to sign a contract in New England. So, the conversation of if you leave a city without a contract, it's a bad sign. I don't think that's the case. Not with a player like this. I think beginning parts of free agency, at the way beginning, first day of free agency, you go and visit a team and you leave without a contract, it's probably not a great thing. You're probably not signing there. This is different. So leaving without a contract, that's not the story. The story is one of their reporters presenting that there are some concerns inside the building of what his fit would be like with some practice habits, how many hoops some people around the Patriots organization feel like they would have to jump through to accommodate how he goes about his business to approach the game. And they're not going to view it as, no, you got to come here. You're the difference maker. You're the missing piece. But, hey, you come here. Everybody can get better. You'll be part of the team. And is he wanting to go to a place that is not going to view him and sort of court him in the degree of you are the guy that takes us to the next level, as opposed to, no, you in this offense makes everybody better. You certainly are a benefit to us, but we're not viewing this as the piece that connects the entire puzzle, and without you, we're screwed.
There are a few parts of that makes me think that it makes it even less likely that he'll be a Chief, and one that makes me wonder if the Chiefs wouldn't end up being a really nice fit for him.
Less likely, yet also maybe more likely.
This is Welcome to Sports Radio, everybody. We're playing both sides of this coin. There was an interesting couple of quotes here from Dante Scarnecchia, the former Patriots offensive line coach, going to be in the Team Hall of Fame later this year. And he was talking about practice habits and Belichick and kind of specifically that aspect of it, right? Where he says, I do know in a perfect world, Bill would probably prefer that the guy goes out there and practices every day. If a guy only wants to practice once a week and you're willing to take that on, you'll take it on. Not the best situation in the world, et cetera, et cetera. I think we've seen Andy Reid be very flexible to putting guys in the legit best situations for themselves. Jerick McKinnon was on the injury report like every minute of the season last year, it felt like. Just half of his body was on the injury report. Obviously, they've been working to keep Travis Kelce young. So if DeAndre Hopkins bounces around and here's some teams tell him that, we're not sure we're going to fully have you bought in. We're not sure how bought in we are, whatever. I think he could knock that out in a sit-down with Andy Reid. Now, the role that he might be looking for, and, of course, as it's been every step of the way, the money, still not very tenable for the Chiefs at this point. But also, it was not that long ago that the Cardinals were not going to trade DeAndre Hopkins for less than a second-round pick. And then they cut him a few months later. So I do think it's fascinating how underwhelming his market seems to be at the moment.
The Patriots part of this, even as we can get into the Chiefs part of it, the Patriots part of this becomes interesting to me moving forward because they talk about, how many hoops they would have to jump through and whether or not Bill Belichick, as the former offensive lineman there, saying that, Belichick and practice habits and guys practicing culture fit, which is what Tom Curran brought up on the interview on WEEI. Does Bill Belichick make an exception for DeAndre Hopkins? And if you make an exception for DeAndre Hopkins, do you have to then start making exceptions for guys that have been around? Do you start to erode the Patriot way? Mm-hmm. Or was the Patriot way just simply Tom Brady?
Right.
Tom Brady with a hard ass of a coach that was pretty good at scheming and a really good defensive coach and a really good coach. I think Belichick's a really good coach. And that connection was awesome. And some of the parts became interchangeable because you had Brady as your quarterback. And Brady might have been the one that established and set the tone of the way that you went about your business. And without Brady there, and this Patriots team not making the playoffs or struggling and being fourth in the AFC East right now, if they bring in DeAndre Hopkins and allow him to sort of do his own thing while other people are the Patriot way, I mean, is that the first sign of Bill Belichick saying that, oh, wait, I've got to adjust, or I'm feeling some heat and some pressure that I might have to do some things differently to get some players in here because Tom ain't quarterbacking right now. Number 12 is not out there under center. And if I just simply say, oh, well, you're going to conform or get out of here, or you've got to do this as the Patriot way, is that a sign of Bill Belichick finally saying, okay, is panic the right word, or feeling like I've got to adjust because it ain't working this way anymore, and maybe it wasn't all about the quote-unquote Patriot way.
Yeah.
To be able to have other people conform to what you demand?
It's a really interesting question, and I think in a lot of ways, we know that Brady and Belichick are able to feed each other there, right? Like that either way you split that group up, and there's not a dynasty of all time, right? So I don't know how you split the credit pie or whatever, but when you are now, I think pretty universally the greatest head coach in football history that like almost everyone would agree with, now you are left trying to do it in a different way with a quarterback you need to see if you can figure out, as opposed to a quarterback who will cover up your flaws and let you be the mastermind defensively, where you guys can collaborate on the offense. And also, this isn't necessarily directly correlating with like signing Hopkins or whatever, but they tried some crazy bleep with the offensive coordinator position last year. Now Bill O'Brien's back, which maybe DeAndre Hopkins is down for. But
so hiring an actual offensive guy to be offensive coordinator is an interesting move by Bill Belichick, as opposed to hiring Matt Patricia,
greatest coach of all time, realizing
to be an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Seems odd.
Seemed strange at the time, but he's Bill Belichick.
You know what, Spags? We're going to have you call the offense.
That would be uncomfortable.
Good morning. Right? The horn blew. Am I still OC?
Or maybe Eric Bieniemy needed, he needed to be a head coach, some experience on the other side. EB, we're going to move you to the defensive side. As Andy Reid's offense.
Well, not a coordinator. You're going to be a linebackers coach.
Right.
EB as well. But as a running back, you should know about linebackers.
Exactly.
See? And as a defensive guy, you should know about offenses and how to run them and scheme them and
develop a young quarterback who might be kind of fragile at this point in his career.
Coordinate them. Maybe you go with Blake Zappi.
Yeah, sure. Or Bailey Zappi.
Bailey Zappi.
Either one.
There's a Zappi out there somewhere that you could probably bring in for a Mac. Isn't he still the backup?
I think he probably is.
To Mac Jones?
That was just a fun, 2 weeks?
It was a fun 2 weeks, yes, especially him being a Hilltopper. So, that whole storyline last year into this year where you signed Juju, and he's your number one guy, and Mac Jones is a fine quarterback.
I think he'll look better this year with an adult calling plays.
I think so, too.
I do think that's real.
I think so, too. But DeAndre Hopkins leaves, and there's some concern from the Patriots side about if they'll have to jump through too many hoops to bring DeAndre Hopkins in to allow your team to conform to him, as opposed to, no, we practice here. As far as the Chiefs are concerned, to me, there's a couple of things in how it impacts Hopkins and a potential marriage with the Chiefs. One, the market. So if the Titans and the Patriots have him come visit and then he leaves and we'll see other teams, is there a market that a lot of teams are getting involved with and saying, Hopkins, we're going to have him visit here. He's not visiting Buffalo. He's not visiting Kansas City. He's not visiting Cleveland. He visited Tennessee and New England. Those are the spots that he's visiting. And if he leaves there with no contract, which was expected, so I don't think that's as big of a deal, but how much of a demand is there going to be on the open market for him to get the $8 to $10 million and maybe up to 19 in incentives? So if guys get injured in training camp, maybe somebody's more willing to do that. Yeah. If the Chiefs extend Chris Jones and clear some cap space or whatever, maybe the Chiefs are now back in on DeAndre Hopkins. I think $8 to $10 million base salary, the Chiefs are out on DeAndre Hopkins. But if he's not being given that, or it's, we'll give you $8 to $10 million, but you're going to be practicing every day. We're not going to do all of it. We're not going to give you that money. And then also we've got to adjust all of the things we've done around here to allow you to come in and practice one time or not practice at all during the week, and other guys are out there having to practice and have been here longer and done more things and not as good as you, so that certainly comes with the territory. And is there more of a fit if Andy Reid is not as strict in terms of this is the Patriot way or the Chiefs way, and you've got to be buttoned up and no sort of flair. You've got to be Joe Bot-Tooney, essentially. And the Chiefs aren't like that. The Chiefs allow players to show their personalities to a degree. To a degree. Travis Kelce 6 years ago would not be having a podcast with Jason Kelce.
Correct.
I think even Tyreek Hill on the Chiefs right now probably wouldn't be having a podcast.
I think you're right.
I don't think he would also need to let everybody know that it needed to be said. I don't know what needed to be said if he re-signs with the Chiefs. Regardless of the point, is Andy Reid more willing to adjust to a player while also feeling like he can fit culturally if he's going about his business, knows what he's supposed to be doing, on the same page with Patrick Mahomes, studying the playbook, making plays, the things that he's asked to do, as opposed to, yeah, but is he practicing on Wednesday? But is he practicing on Thursday? I mean, is he going through the walkthrough on Friday? Is he actually out there or not? Is he limited every single practice? Is he a DNP, rest, or sore, or whatever? As opposed to the Patriots, where it's, no, you better practice. It's the Patriot way, and we're not going to give in. And if we do we start to do that with other players? And is Belichick starting to panic a little bit and saying, I've got to adjust my ways because Brady ain't here anymore?
And kind of thinking through it, like I think that when you look at Andy Reid and Belichick both, the different ways that they can be stubborn and like the calling cards for them for practice, or in Andy Reid's case, I really think about training camp, right? The logic of it is, here's what I think is best. For Andy Reid, I think it's here, you being able to physically and mentally get through these grueling days, these long reps, these long drive drills, all of that. That is going to benefit us in September, October, February, and everything in between, obviously. For Belichick, I'm sure that there is some belief that having the full team doing full team stuff all the time is going to make the team as a collective unit better. Like there's some Spartan DNA in there, I think. But for what the Chiefs have done, and again, I think about Travis Kelce now in this stage of his career still being incredibly effective, where if he would have been ground into dust, and I'm not necessarily saying that Bill Belichick has Rob Gronkowski's green blood on his hands or whatever. I just assume it's green. It just seems like an alien.
Yeah.
But continuing to stretch out the career of an elite player and being willing and able to listen to the players who can listen to their bodies, again, like Jack McKinnon. The Chiefs have shown at least some aptitude for that. Now we've got our whole NFLPA report card and some of the things with the training staff and all of that. But when you have a veteran player who's been in the league for a long time, it doesn't seem like the Chiefs are ever rushing guys back to the practice field. You just need to have a guy who's at least mentally bought in. And hey, is DeAndre Hopkins going to be good to go for training camp? If so, then I think that door is open. I do think it's interesting to try to figure out where the line in the sand really is, though, on the Patriot way.
Yeah.
Because that's the mythos of it. At least Belichick's side is, I am this Sith Lord who will show you no personality, and I will just stomp along and win Super Bowls year after year after year with this more charismatic but still not very out there quarterback who, of course, as his career went on, got a little more out there, but that didn't really fully break until Tampa. He wasn't on Twitter until he was in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay. So I think it's a very interesting question to see where the future of the Patriots heads.
And I wonder if whether Bill Belichick cares or not. I think everybody that gets to the level has a degree of competitiveness. So I think Bill Belichick might care to some degree of if he's the greatest coach of all time and viewed that way. Whereas there's more of a conversation, at least starting to include Andy Reid into that mix. I think right now Andy Reid's the best coach in the NFL. But if we say, one of the best coaches of all time, is it Andy Reid? Is it Bill Belichick? Well, I think right now it's Andy Reid. But let's say Andy Reid gets a couple more Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes, and he ends up with 4, and Belichick has 6. And you go, well, Belichick has more championships than Andy Reid. And you go, true, but what did Belichick do outside of Tom Brady? How many playoffs did Belichick go to without Tom Brady? What, 1?
And Brady got a ring without Belichick.
Belichick. He went to 1 playoff without Tom Brady. And then when he lost Tom Brady in a season when they went 18-0 the year before. 18-0, but then 18-1 the year before. They end up missing the playoffs because Brady, same team, essentially.
Same team.
But it's Matt Castle and not Tom Brady, and then they don't make the playoffs
just
that
a different
year.
Goat.
Now, it's just a different way. It's whether it's the initials, the G, or the word.
Yeah.
And then post Brady, when he's seen the other 3 teams in the AFC East pass him by, and he's got Mac Jones, whereas Andy Reid has gone to a Super Bowl with Donovan McNabb, has played for the NFC Championship with Donovan McNabb, won NFC East with Donovan McNabb, won the AFC West with Alex Smith, has gone to playoffs with Alex Smith, and is now winning Super Bowls with a Hall of Fame quarterback. So is the difference Andy Reid getting a Hall of Fame quarterback later on in his career as opposed to Bill Belichick having a Hall of Fame quarterback in the early 2000s? if Patrick Mahomes were Patrick Mahomes now, but with the Eagles with Andy Reid, would we be talking about Andy Reid and not Bill Belichick right now? Because that's where you start to get into the long-term, bigger picture of, best is if Andy Reid wins a couple more Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes, and he's got a Hall of Famer that he's got 4 with, and Belichick has a Hall of Famer, he's got 6. But then you throw in all of the other things when you didn't have that Hall of Famer and the success Andy Reid has had with the lack thereof of Belichick, you start to wonder if Belichick's like, I need to get my bleep together. And whether that's just on the micro with DeAndre Hopkins or the macro of overall sort of viewing things of, I guess I can't just put Matt Patricia as an offensive coordinator and maybe I should go get Bill O'Brien, who is a pretty good offensive coordinator, and maybe do some offense stuff with that. And we'll go invest in some other things in the wide receiver position. I don't know what the next 3 or 4 years look like, but making the playoffs doesn't look likely for this team the way the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets are currently being constructed.
And, Belichick's obviously going to retire after Brady. That crossover for Brady only continued a couple years beyond. But whenever Andy Reid retires, he is still going to continue, I think very fairly, to get credit for whatever Patrick Mahomes continues to do, especially while he's in Kansas City. Because if the next head coach is Matt Nagy or some guy a couple steps below Matt Nagy right now, it'll be an Andy Reid coaching tree head coach with an Andy Reid molded quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. Like, even after Reid is retired, I think he might get a little more, not necessarily going on his Wikipedia page, but a little more of the narrative shine that comes with having coached and molded what I think by the end of it we will say was the most dynamic, most incredible, best quarterback of all time. That's going to end up being a really interesting conversation, especially if the Patriots just can't. If they end up in an AFC championship game again before Belichick retires, that would feel like a win. That's the lowest standard they've had in a very long time.
So he's made, I apologize, he's made 2 playoffs because they went to the playoffs 2 years ago. In 2021, they lost to the Bills in the wild card game to the Patriots.
Was that the unwatchable? The unwatchable one was a regular season game, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That may have been round 3 afterwards.
It was so watchable, I forgot they even made the playoffs. And then he made the playoffs with the Cleveland Browns before coaching with the Patriots. What I believe Andy Reid is fighting against is it's difficult to erase a reputation of years and decades, essentially, of you can't win the big one. Andy Reid can get you there, or get you close, but he will not be able to get you over the hump because he didn't have a Hall of Fame quarterback. And you could make a pretty strong case that maybe Andy Reid was there with teams that shouldn't have been there if it wasn't for Andy Reid being the head coach. So now he's got a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he's won a couple Super Bowls. But can you then erase the years where Belichick was winning and they were in the playoffs every year? They were in the AFC Championship, it seemed, every year. They went to the Super Bowl so many different times. 6 championships, 9 Super Bowls that they played in. And just so dominant in the division and everything. Belichick was winning year after year after year after year after year after year. And Andy Reid was going to the Super Bowl once with Donovan McNabb, winning divisions, getting there, but not coming through in the biggest moments. To the point that I worked with a guy from Philadelphia when the Chiefs hired Andy Reid in 2013 in a different city. And I remember his words when they announced they were hiring Andy Reid, and he said, yeah, enjoy that. And I said, Romeo Crennel, Todd Haley, Herm Edwards, you think I'm not going to enjoy what Andy Reid will do for the team as opposed to the previous 3 coaches? Yeah, I will enjoy it, actually. And maybe you were just a little spoiled with Andy Reid. Yeah, you'll see. You'll see with Andy Reid and what he... And by the way, a lot of people around here bought into that until he got Patrick Mahomes. Because it wasn't Alex Smith and other things. It was Andy Reid. Andy Reid's clock management, Andy Reid's ability to get his team over the hump, Andy Reid in the playoffs, Andy Reid's a regular season guy. Then he gets a Hall of Fame quarterback, and it's like, well, look what Mahomes and Andy Reid are doing. Yeah, Mahomes, he's got Andy Reid. I mean, Mahomes is great, but you want to talk about a situation somebody was born into and just gifted that organization with Andy Reid as his coach? Anybody could do that. It's amazing how the conversation has switched. But then when you talk about Andy Reid, Yeah, what did he do before Patrick Mahomes? Andy Reid is a creation of Patrick Mahomes. That's really it. Like, whatever side of the coin you want to argue, you can argue for or against those two guys. But the success before Patrick Mahomes, to me, does a lot more for viewing Andy Reid in a certain light more positively than Bill Belichick's lack of success before and after Tom Brady. And that's going to continue to be judged and looked at as the years pass. If this Patriots team is finishing last in the East and not making the playoffs, and the Chiefs are one of the dominant teams in the league for the next 3, 4, 5 years, however many more years Andy Reid's gonna coach, and if he wins a couple of more and he's got 4 and Belichick's got 6, that's pretty indiscernible in terms of championships. And unless you're talking about NBA GOATs, then it only matters with championships. But also you could be 5 short of somebody else, and that also doesn't matter in terms of that being a difference. Obviously talking about Kevin Durant and Steph Curry.
Clearly the two.
I'm talking about Kevin Durant and Devin Booker.
Bradley Beal and Devin Booker. Who's not talking about those two right now?
We haven't even mentioned the Suns.
How have we got
25.
this far into the show?
That's right. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Matt Verderin will be our guest from Sports Illustrated. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your...
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, and Drake. Having fun with Tungsten Arm O'Doyle stories with the Angels as I was standing in line at the Little K to watch my son not get to bat while Ohtani and Mike Trout went back-to-back pitches for home runs. They actually won that game, though, so that's not typical of an Angels game where some cool things happen with Trout and Ohtani. Typically, it's when they actually end up losing. That's what they do. Tungsten Arm O'Doyle, like 5 days ago, I was telling Josh that Mike Trout walked twice, scored a run. Reed Detmers gave up only 1 run in 6 innings with 8 strikeouts, while Shohei Ohtani had the hardest hit ball to the opposite field by a left-hander in the StatCast era as the Angels lost 6-3 to the Rangers.
What a beautiful game.
It is amazing. You know what is a beautiful game? Watching the Chiefs play football.
Oh, I love that game.
Absolutely, and I love talking to Matt Verderame about that. Sports Illustrated's Matt Verderame joining us here in the zone. Matt, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
I'm good, Jason. How are you?
I am doing just fine. I'm doing just fine. So last week we had some fun off the field with Pat Who to then the ring ceremony and Patrick Mahomes with the ultimate sort of scoreboard without saying scoreboard. And really acknowledging what he was talking about, but everybody knows what he's talking about with the rebuttal and the touche and the mic drop. Is this, and maybe it's not even a question, but I'll still ask it, but is this the best rivalry going in the NFL right now? And is there one close to what it, and we're so close to the situation, it feels like that, but you looking at the overall NFL, is there a rivalry right now that feels like it's as close as to what the players on the two sides of the team don't like each other and the fans really don't like each other?
I think right now, Jason, I think it's the best rivalry in North American sports.
Wow.
I mean, obviously, if you're talking historic rivalries, and it's not even the top 500 because the Chiefs and the Bengals have either both been or one of them has been awful for most of their existences. But right now, there's not a better rivalry in the NBA than this. There's no, with the Celtics and the Sixers aren't a rivalry. They lose every time. I mean, is there something out west? I mean, the Warriors have been great for years. Who's their big rival? Who's the team that you look at? They would be the one. In baseball, of course, you have the Yankees and the Red Sox. The Yankees haven't won a World Series in almost 15 years. The Red Sox are in the last place, I believe, in the American League East. So I really do think right now, but those two teams, a lot of times geography dictates rivalries and fan bases don't like each other. It's rare in today's game where the teams genuinely don't like each other. Those two teams, there's no love lost. So, yeah, I think right now, I think it's the best rivalry in sports. It's been phenomenal, and we maybe will get a part 3 for the AFC Championship come January.
Yeah, the Red Sox and Yankees rivalry, they played last night, and I was watching Florida and Oral Roberts.
Right, nobody cares.
I mean,
nobody nationally cares.
Like, honestly, like ESPN couldn't even spend the week building that up. And they had 2 games on with Yankees and Red Sox this weekend. And I don't remember, Matt, you're right, I don't remember seeing any promos or anything like stories or interviews leading up to Yankees Red Sox this weekend. It was just like, oh, they got Yankees Red. It's Sunday Night Baseball, and it just happens to be Yankees and Red Sox. Whereas, you know what? I'm watching this Florida team, which is uber talented, and this fun Oral Roberts team in Omaha. That gets me more excited to watch. Oh, and I'm also watching the last, round of the U.S. Open rather than caring about what happens all with Yankees and Red Sox.
I would argue, look, the Chiefs and the Bengals play New Year's Eve this year at Arrowhead, Week 17.
Yeah.
Unless something weird happens, injuries wreck their seasons or something, but as long as the teams are relatively healthy and they're where we all expect them to be, that'll be the highest-rated game of the NFL all year. And that's not even a primetime game. It's a 4:25 game, Eastern. I think part of it is with those two teams is the animosity comes from a respect factor. Like the Bengals beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game 2 seasons ago, and yet even though they have, of course, lose in the Super Bowl, I think after the year everybody still talked about the Chiefs. A lot of people talked about the Bills. Oh, they're the best team in the AFC. Very few people talked about the AFC champions.
Yeah.
Is the best team in the AFC. And so I think for fans, it certainly riled them up. I think for the Bengals, it was a big disrespect factor. Then they go and they play that game again. The Chiefs win again. By the way, these 4 times that Burrow and Mahomes play each other, all of them have been decided by a field goal. Every single game.
It's unbelievable.
And so I think, there's part of it with the Chiefs that it's like, well, who are the Bengals to say anything to us? We've won 2 Super Bowls.
Mhm.
You've never won a Super Bowl. So I think there's just a lot of you have the spot we want, vice versa. You don't get the respect you should get, and vice versa. I think all that adds up to a fan base rivalry, but also a player rivalry that makes it a lot of fun.
I think the player rivalry was heightened with the Burrowhead.
Oh, no question.
I think then it felt like, okay, now the players are disrespecting Arrowhead and disrespecting us and where we play. It's one thing, and Eli Apple certainly elevates that with his tweets after the game and smoking the Chiefs pack and all of that. So it becomes more of those players, and I think the Chiefs players after the AFC Championship game told you everything that was sort of boiling inside of them about the Bengals and those players when they, Frank Clark, Burrowhead, my ass, they better take their ass back to Cincinnati, and Travis Kelce calling the mayor a jabroni. Like it became personal. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling talking about smoking the Eli pack. Pat Mahomes said he was smoking that Bengal pack on the cigar he was smoking. Like, it became personal the week leading up to the Chiefs and Bengals in the AFC Championship game.
It did. It reminds me, I'm a child of the 90s. I'm 34 years old. And I remember as a kid when you would watch the Cowboys and the 49ers play, and you pretty much knew whoever wins that game, they're going to the Super Bowl. There's a real good chance they're going to win the Super Bowl. Like, that was always – even though as a kid I wasn't a Cowboys or 49ers fan, like, you always watched that game. That game was the event of the season. In fact, a lot of times literally more important than the Super Bowl. I remember when the 49ers finally broke through, they beat Dallas in 94. They played the Chargers. Yeah. It was like, why are they even playing this
Why
game?
play the game?
They're going to beat them by 40 points. Like, this isn't going to be a game. And while certainly that wasn't the case last year, Philadelphia was a real team and everything else. Kansas City and Cincinnati, I do think between the two of them, there's a little bit of, hey, it's just us. We're the two teams that at the end of the day, we're going to see each other in January, probably in the AFC title game, and it's going to come down to who can beat who. It's a little bit of a king of the mountain. Buffalo might have something to say, but Buffalo hasn't been to the Super Bowl. The Chiefs and the Bengals have been. So, I mean, when you look at the last 4 years, one of those two franchises has been there. And I think that is what breeds some of the animosity. Is they're not scared of each other. They know they're going to see each other. And when they do, they've always been crazy, electric, fun, down-to-the-wire games.
And both sides think they're better than the other side. While it might be respective players.
Genuinely.
Yeah, there's not one side that goes, well, yeah, but that's the Chiefs over there. Or, well, that's the Bengals over there. Or something like that. Whereas, like, the Texans can be playing against the Chiefs or the Bengals. The Texans side doesn't believe, what, we're better than them. Like, no, you might play a close game, but you're not actually better. That both sides with Chiefs and Bengals believe we're actually the better team on this field. And it's fascinating when you talk about, like, Chiefs and Bengals this year, because that's absolutely the conversation that after the Bengals beat the Chiefs and went to the Super Bowl last year, my conversation during the summer was about the Bills, and heading into the season, it was about the Bills. I picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl. I thought the Bills were the best team. This was the Bills now going to take the step forward. The Bills would have beat the Bengals if they, if the 13 seconds didn't happen and all of that stuff. That was all my opinion. And now, like, the Bills are third in this conversation when I'm talking about Chiefs, Bengals, and Bills. And I wonder if there's something more going on there in Buffalo with Stephon Diggs, if there's a trend in the wrong direction with that organization and that franchise right now.
It's an interesting thing. After all that happened, I reached out to some people I know around the team, and even, frankly, people who cover the team, who are around them all the time, who I know and trust. What is going on? What is the issue there? And I think, like everybody else trying to find out, I don't know that you get a completely straight answer, but I will say this. I think that is something that is a real lingering issue. I mean, that's not because of money. I tweeted out about, hey, look, this is a bizarre situation. I had a couple of Bills fans fire back. They're like, well, what's wrong with Chris Jones? So, well, he wants money. That's easy. That's easy. I know why he wasn't there. He wants to get paid. Right? Yeah. So that's not Diggs has 5 years left on a very big contract. Like, that's not the problem. So then it starts boiling into, some people you talk to say, well, does it have something to do maybe with him and Josh Allen and their relationship, which I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I know at the end of the year last year we saw him, gesturing at Allen on the sideline after that Bengals game, or I guess during the end of the Bengals game. I think a lot of it is like Diggs is frustrated. You know, they've come close, but they really, I mean, when you really think about it, like they've come close, but they haven't. I mean, they got to the AFC Championship game one year. The Chiefs hammered them. They have that 13 seconds game, which I remember talking to Dawson Knox for a piece last offseason, and he flat out told me, look, that's a game that like we do still think about. Like we're going to use it as motivation, but yeah, it was crushing. I wonder to some degree, frankly, how much that game will define this team because they should have won that game. I know Chiefs fans don't love to admit that. They should have won that game. And, you know, now, you know, you have that season last year where you're the favorite, you're blown out at home. It's hard to argue that the Bills are better than Cincinnati or Kansas City. Like, maybe they beat them in a game in the regular season or whatever, but when it matters, what makes you think they're going to win? And that is, I think, where some of this frustration comes in with Diggs maybe feeling there are some things not happening in Buffalo that ought to be happening.
Yeah, and it like the whole thing might be a Diggs situation between like Diggs and Josh Allen and the you know the video of that divisional game where he's gesturing towards Josh Allen and even Josh Allen saying, well, I could have done some things different to help out the relationship or however he phrased it at the time. My next point might be all about Stephon Diggs and nothing about Josh Allen, but I'm thinking, and I can't imagine a Bengals player or a Chiefs player, wide receiver, tight end, doing that to Patrick Mahomes on the sideline or Joe Burrow. You know,
no.
And maybe it's just Diggs, and Diggs would do it to Burrow or Mahomes. So I don't want to necessarily say it's like maybe a respect to Josh Allen or not, but maybe it's just the overall relationship because I can't imagine Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes being on the receiving end of a receiver doing that.
Well, I got to tell you, you're not wrong, but my feeling on it is like you say maybe Stephon Diggs, maybe he'd do it. Maybe he would. It would be received much differently
True. That's
by
a good
players in Cincinnati and Kansas City.
Yeah.
There is nobody who would defend a player doing that to Mahomes. Nobody. That would be, I mean, the only guy who could do it is Kelsey because of the relationship the two of them have and because of how great Kelsey is. So maybe there would be, but I can't imagine Kelsey doing that, which is ironic because early in his career, that's all you could imagine Kelsey doing, right? But he's come a long way. But yeah, like Marcus Valdes-Scantling would never do that to Patrick Mahomes. I think there is validity in that. And again, like I think a lot of it too, and I think that there is a pressure now on Buffalo early on in this run. It's a little bit just like when the Chiefs lost to the Pats in that D4 game. Like as frustrating as it was, you're like, okay, this is exciting, it's new, they're on the rise, here they come. You're past that stage with Buffalo. And now it's almost like an anxiety stage. Like, oh, my God, are we not ever going to win a Super Bowl with this team?
Yeah.
Or is this going to be like it was 30 years ago when we ripped off 4 straight Super Bowl appearances and lost them all? I mean, it's not a franchise like Pittsburgh where you go, well, they'll find a way to win. They always find a way to win. The MO in Buffalo, just like it was for years in Kansas City, is, well, we're going to find a way to lose. And now I think it's becoming, at first it was, hey, this is this great young fun team and we love them. And now it's like, well, are they a great young team or are they a good young team that's never going to get over the hump? And now they're not that young anymore, and like it's now or never with this current core. And I think that's part. I think there's a lot of anxiety built up not only with the team but with the city. And they're seeing the Chiefs rip off Super Bowl. If the Bengals get there, they haven't gotten there. And I think that's starting to really affect the team.
Yeah, now they're paying Josh Allen, and now you're living in that world. Matt Verderame is our guest from Sports Illustrated. You mentioned Chris Jones, and it's easy to know what that's about. It's just it's about money. We talked on Friday after the ring ceremony, and I prefaced about 20 different times for a specific reason and said, look, if there could be a perfectly reasonable explanation for him not to be there, and if that's the case, hey, then what we'll talk about is null and void. But if that's not the case, hey, here's the conversation about him being there, not being there, whatever. He tweeted out that he was sick. That's why he did not go. But as far as it relates to the contract and everything, Brett Veach laid out the timeline at the red carpet ring ceremony and talked about it in July. That's where, like, when we talk about Chris Jones and everything, like, to me, like, the Chiefs don't do contracts in June. It's going to be in July before Chris Jones is signed and extended, if that happens at all. And it's probably going to be, well, I would say mid-July, but the Chiefs now have report date of July 18th and not like July 24th or 25th. So they're a little bit earlier. So it might move that timeline up a little bit of when Chris Jones reasonably can expect a deadline for, all right, let's get this extension done and get you into camp?
Yeah, well, I think if people remember it, the first extension he did was like the second week of July or something like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
because
was.
he had that was that week or 10 days in the summer where they extended him, Mahomes, and Kelsey
Yep.
all like
Yeah.
simultaneously. That was that crazy summer where they had like 78 cents worth of cap space.
They signed
You
him.
know, so, I mean, I think, look, the reality is, if you're the Chiefs, it's good business to extend him before the season.
Yeah.
You save a bunch of cap space. They have had reported interest, and I know that they've had interest in DeAndre Hopkins. Now that has cooled down, but like if they open up $20 million cap space this year, do they have more interest in DeAndre Hopkins again? Because now all of a sudden you got money. So I mean that's still an option. But I think if nothing else, you're the Chiefs. You roll the money over going forward, fine. Still cap space. The other part of it is there are certain guys in the league. You just look at that guy, like you got to pay that guy. Chris Jones is one. I mean, I don't know what kind of message are you sending to the rest of that team and to that defense if you don't pay him. You know, I think with Tyreek Hill it was one thing. $30 million a year for a receiver, as great a player as he is. That they might have looked at that and said, listen, Mahomes can elevate these guys, which he did. They went out and did the best offensive year they've ever had, and they won the Super Bowl. There's no Mahomes on the defensive side of the ball to elevate Chris Jones' replacement.
Yeah.
Like, Chris Jones is the Patrick Mahomes of that side of the ball. So I think you got to pay him. That said, you know what? I will say, as a little side note, I know that there were other people at that ring ceremony who were very sick for the Chiefs. There was something going around with the team. That's not to say that Jones should have toughed it out. My point is I completely believe he was ill because a lot of people. I know one person there with 103 fever.
Wow.
So I mean there were people there who were not feeling too hot. So I believe 100% that he was actually ill.
Or they were feeling too hot. That's could also be part of it.
In that case, yes.
Matt Verderame, Sports Illustrated. Last one for you. You have the story with the at Sports Illustrated with 32 teams in 32 days, and you have the write-up and the coverage on the Raiders. What do you see from Vegas this year? Is it a battle for fourth? Can they surprise some people? Is Jimmy Garoppolo, is he going to play this year? Like there's some things surrounding the Raiders and what a difference a year makes because they get Devontae Adams and they get Chandler Jones and it's like okay they're going to go for it after making the playoffs and now this year it's just sort of an also ran and are they a second division team?
I think their best case scenario is they finish in third place. I just don't see. Other than Max Crosby, who is awesome.
Yeah.
Who else is any good on that defense? I'm not saying even to be facetious. Like, genuinely, I know they drafted Tyree Wilson. We're going to find out how good he is. Maybe he's great. Maybe he's not. We'll see. Who else is any good? Do they have one player in the secondary? Do you go, that guy's an above-average player. Maybe Nate Hobbs. Maybe. And then offensively, you love Adams. You love Jacobs. Okay, they get rid of Waller. Renfro's coming off a real down year. The quarterback situation, I mean, Garoppolo may or may not play. I mean, they think he's going to play, but they're not 100% sure he's going to be ready. He doesn't play. It's Brian Hoyer. And Jason, I've written about this in the past, wrote about it probably in March for SI. Josh McDaniels is doing what every other coach who's ever come out of Foxborough does. They go out and they sign 15 guys who played for the Patriots, and they just try to turn it into Foxborough West or South or North or wherever they're at. It never works. And if you look at the Raiders offseason, who'd they sign? Jimmy Garoppolo, Jacoby Myers, Philip Dorsett. Last year, it was Chandler Jones they brought him in, former Patriot. They just bring in guy after guy after guy who are all these expats. And you're like, yeah, that's great. But unless you're bringing in Belichick and Brady, it doesn't really matter. I just think in that division, they can't stop anybody. I think they're going to be about a 5 or 6 win team.
Yeah, they can bring in 15 different guys, but none of them equal 12. And if you're not bringing in number 12, then you can bring in as many expatriates as you want. It's not going to be the same thing. Matt Verderame, Sports Illustrated, joining us here. Matt, appreciate the time as always, sir. You're the man. We'll be watching and covering as the dead period around the NFL starts for the next month or so until the Chiefs players will report coming up on the 18th, the 19th. First practice there in St. Joe will be July 19th, so we'll see what's going on with that. Matt, you're the man. Appreciate it, sir.
Hey, thanks a lot. Take care.
Absolutely. You too. There's Matt Verderame, Sports Illustrated. Does a great job and covering the Chiefs. So So, yeah, another former Patriot following the Patriot way, except the way to Brady Street is a road less traveled. I can tell you the way to Sesame Street much easier. I can tell you the way to recreating Bill Belichick's Patriot way without Tom Brady, that's for sure. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up this hour next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810.
Thank you to Matt Verderame. We'll talk with Josh Kaiser KC Sports Network. We'll talk some Royals baseball with Josh Kaiser. Taking Matt Verderame, talking some Chiefs football, talking some Chiefs-Bengals rivalry. Best rivalry in American sports, Chiefs and Bengals right now. It is fascinating, though. Remember 15 years ago, maybe even 10, I don't know, when Yankees and Red Sox would be on TV, the week leading up to it, ESPN would be running promos and talking Yankees, Red Sox, greatest rivalry in the history of the world.
This game will take 4 American hours.
More deaths than Hatfield and McCoy's.
This game actually started in the first inning. Was when the whole Hatfield-McCoy thing was going down.
We're now on to the 4th inning.
On to the 4th, Andy Pettit takes the bump.
And into the 9th, it's... trying to think of somebody that's on the Yankees right now. It's taken that long. They've actually changed out rosters.
Going to the pitcher?
They've actually changed out rosters from Andy Pettit to now. But like they played last night, and no interest.
Yeah, I didn't know it was happening.
No interest whatsoever. Plus, the Red Sox were wearing a yellow uniform. So even if you turn it on, you're like, is this the Mustard facing off against the... Is there prisoners or some black and white stripes? Is that the referees versus the Mustard? There's a hot dog race that went on. It was very strange. I was paying way more attention to the U.S. Open for obvious reasons, because Yankees Red Sox is not interesting me right now. And I'm very much into the College World Series right now, and with Florida and Oral Roberts playing last night, that's fun. So, yeah.
I was really into the World Baseball Classic. We talked about that when that all happened. So there is something interesting going on here where it's like, all right, Major League Baseball outside of your local market, not really getting its hooks into us. College baseball, World Baseball Classic, maybe just having stakes involved.
Yeah, that might be the thing. I was making mistakes last night while watching that.
I think baseball's better with stakes involved, for
True.
sure. I'm willing to say that.
By the way, if you haven't seen Paul Skeens for LSU pitch, go watch him pitch. The easiest 100 miles an hour I've ever seen.
Monarchs baseball season is underway, and tickets are a steal. Get in on the fun as the Monarchs continue their quest for yet another trophy. Tickets start at just $13, and parking is always free. Bring your group out to the Home Run Patio and enjoy baseball and an all-you-can-eat buffet for one low price. Buy your tickets today at tickets.monarchsbaseball.com or call 913-328-5618. That's Kansas City's winning baseball team, the Kansas City Monarchs. Join the Monarchy.
Bickamer Electric will get you up to code for your voltage load. Bickamer Electric, we're gonna wire it right and hook you up tonight. Bickamer Electric.
The year is almost half over, and you're still dealing with that knee or hip pain. Enough is enough. Pills are not the answer. Surgery's not the answer. You need to call QC Kinetics today. This is Steven Saint.
it was just huge. I think it's good for this organization too, because I was kind of advocating for a little on-field violence, just to wake them up, get them out of this bad juju that it seemed like they were kind of rolling. So I was kind of asking for a little bit of a policing of the game after that Taylor Ward steal. So I thought that was potentially a way out of the skid, but instead it's Samad Taylor, and it could not be better. And I mean, kind of to your story from your son as a little kid, if he is the little big man, I think Samad Taylor in his 5'10", 160-ness can now be the big little man. Is that fair?
I do wonder if Samad Taylor could hit at the little K. We know my 7-year-old son cannot, but I do wonder if 5'8", 160 Samad Taylor. Of course, I don't know. Is he in baseball? If you measure somebody, do you have an inch or two shorter as opposed to basketball? It's like this guy measured 7 foot. We're going to call him 7'5", because who's gonna question whether this guy's 7'5" or 7 feet? Come on, Samad Taylor. Is he 5'10"? Is he 5'8"? I don't. Let's call him 5'8". It's a better story. It's a better story if he's Samad. You're going to be 5'8" now. But people will love it even more if you're 5'8" instead of 5'10". I wonder if that happens in baseball. But what is a realistic expectation? Because look, it's a fun story right now. I hope it continues to be a fun story for Samad Taylor, because he's come through with a couple of RBI hits, and yesterday had a big at bat and had the RBI and was a part of the rally in the 7th, 8th, and then obviously we know about the 9th and walking in the 7th and the 8th on Saturday, and then the walk-off on the 9th. What's realistic for Samad Taylor? Is it a utility guy that can play some second base with Michael Massey out, can play some outfield, maybe a 4th or 5th outfielder, or is there something more, maybe like a Gerard Dyson type player on a division-winning team, or is there something else with him? What's realistic, do you think, for this guy?
In my opinion, and just because I don't want to, we've ridden the prospect bandwagon for like 3 straight years where we just think every guy's going to be a monster and a huge contributor. So I'm going to go ahead and tamper expectations a little bit, I think, and say that he could be a very good utility guy, a very good 4th outfielder. He even talked to Andy Rogers this last weekend, talking about how when he wasn't really familiar with the Royals prior to joining the organization, and he only knew him from the show. He knew like Terrence Gore, he knew Gerard Dyson, he knew Salvador Perez, and he even admitted that he was probably more towards the Gore and Dyson skill set than he was the Salvi, and I don't think that's going to surprise anyone. But I think if you set the expectations for those first two, as a Gore, as a Dyson, I think you can actually potentially hope for pretty reasonably exceeding those expectations. He can draw a walk. He had double-digit walk percentages since 2018 in the minors. Now it's the minor league, so it is what it is. But he's already drawn 2 walks in 2 games, and I don't know how many Royals can actually say that at this point in the year. But if he's drawn a walk, he's got the speed on the base path, and his metrics as far as like hit speed, his ability to make contact is absolutely there. So I mean, there should be expectations of a utility guy and a 4th outfielder for now, but I mean, there's no reason why he can't exceed that as far as value goes to this ball club. And if we're talking about a clubhouse presence like spark plug guy, I'm all for keeping him on the roster just to have him in that position. So I think that's probably the most healthy way to kind of expect Samad Taylor's skill set moving forward.
No, I like that. And what the Royals have done, at least by having a couple of players up in Dairon Blanco and Samad Taylor, is they presented some more speed on the base path, some more issues there. I mean, Blanco stole second and then advanced to third in the game on Saturday. And while it was close, it was a little bit longer to realize that the ball was in center field. It made it closer than it should have been, but still got there. And then Taylor comes through. Like, Samad Taylor had 37 stolen bases in AAA this year before, getting the call up. He hasn't had a stolen base yet, even though he's been on base 4 times so far this year. Well, I guess that one of them doesn't really count as a getting on base for a stolen base because it was a walk-off. He didn't get a chance. He would have definitely stole second.
Definitely.
Who knows?
Undoubtedly.
Also, by the way, Josh, why did he stop at first? Just keep running. It's an inside the park home run, right? I mean, or how do they rule that? Is it the first base you get to when the run scores, or if he touches second base, is it a double? Like, how would they score that? And if they would just score it until he stops running, don't stop at first. Everybody waits for him at home and just keep running around and have an inside the park home run. That would seem to be smarter. But I don't understand how the scoring goes on that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's exactly how it goes. He does. It was credited as a single, but I thought that ball bounced off of that batter's eye green space. So to me, that's a ground rule double at the least. So I think he got a little screwed on that front, but I'll take the single at this point if it means a W. That at this point, you guys are talking about the Chiefs and Bengals being the biggest North American sports rivalry right now, but right now I think the Royals and the win column are probably right up there with it as well. And that's, if we can ever get a win against the win column, I think at this point we're happy.
Yeah, no, that's a big time battle. And by the way, also a lot of vitriol between the Winds and the Royals. Those two are going back and forth.
A lot of personal attacks.
Yep, and the other side thinks they're better than the Winds are like, we're much better than that side. And the Royals are like, I think we're better than the Wind side, but you're not.
Dumbest. That's so dumb. I don't understand where they come off thinking that, but whatever.
Just cocky. You know what? It's the youthful exuberance of just feeling like you're immortal. These young cocky players. Josh Kaiser is our guest. This is more of maybe beauty in the eye of the beholder, even though beauty might be the wrong term. But this team's record is obviously terrible. And I've talked about stop caring about records and being 19-52, whatever. If they're 21-49, that big of a deal. But it would come off as Pollyanna or Disney to be like, hey, this team isn't really that bad. But I do wonder, though, they can't be as bad as 19-52, right? Like, it feels like there are some players there that you'd be like, putting these guys together, they could find a way to win games more often than 1 out of 12, or they could find a way to have a 3-game losing streak when the A's, won 7 or 8 in a row. Is this team really this bad, or is it a collection of guys that are all figuring it out in the big leagues? And yeah, there are some bad parts about this team, but how do you assess what you see on the field with talent and the hope of some players that might be there versus being historically bad in terms of record and some of the overall numbers too? That would tell you are what your record says you are, Bill Parcells, but is this actually reality of what we should be seeing?
I think the correct answer is yes to that. I think it is absolutely some amalgamation of bad luck, bad results, and just bad players. I mean, there's absolutely a collection of guys that are undoubtedly doing poorly. There is a large collection of youth in here that you should absolutely reasonably expect them to be better and will be better, but still trying to figure it out. So if I had to, diagnose this organization at this point in this year, tell them what they need to do moving forward, who that is, it would be almost impossible because we talked about it last time I was on, is the evaluation year. We are on game 71 or whatever, so we're not even halfway through the season, and I still am not real sure what to believe this team is capable of. I know that you don't have to squint, and you can see 5 to 6 guys in the lineup that are major league players. Their upside is there, but even when they're on downsides, you can kind of still see the paths where they can contribute on a big league level. In the rotation, I think Singer and Lynch will be there. Obviously, Greinke is going to be gone by the time this matters, but you don't really have to squint too hard to see their, process and production down the road. Beyond that, it's kind of hard to see what you need and who's going to be able to bring that and why. I think the Miners are doing great on the pitching side, especially. There's guys taking step forwards all the way up, and Frank Mazzucato down in Columbia is absolutely pitching out of his mind. There's 4 or 5 other guys that are going up and down the minors that are just doing really, really well. I still don't know what the upside of that is. So as far as long-term goes, it's going to be very important how they proceed with the draft, very important how they proceed with the trade deadline with the assets they do have, and they're going to have to hit. So in order for this organization to kind of get out of this dip and start kind of moving forward, it's going to be very important what Matt Quatraro is able to get out of his lineup and his rotation and his bullpen every day from here on out, regardless of outcome.
Visiting with Josh Kaiser from KC Sports Network and co-host of One Royal Way podcast. Austin Cox has been really good, another bright spot for this team in an evaluation season as of late. Less than 9 innings, still has not given up a hit, no earned runs, 3 walks, 9 Ks, had another good inning yesterday. Mike Myers DFA'd. Is the natural evolution of Austin Cox to be the Mike Myers guy in the rotation on Thursday, or the longer relief guy that if there's an opener on Thursday against the Rays, then Austin Cox comes in? Or do the Royals, maybe, are they best suited just simply he's successful in what he's doing right now, so let him continue doing that right now instead of taking some success and immediately changing it? But in an evaluation year, boy, I'd like to evaluate if Austin Cox can be a starter.
Yeah, 100%. I think that is the natural. That's my assumption, is purely because I don't know what other alternatives there are. I mean, Kowar can maybe get you a couple innings, maybe as an opener, but I don't see him starting. I mean, he hasn't done, hasn't started a game this year. The Heasley down in Omaha is what it is. You got Max Castillo that could potentially come up. He's actually been doing really well in Omaha lately. But I think the thing that makes the most sense to me is to have Carlos Hernandez open on Thursday, and then Austin Cox being the bulk guy behind him. Austin Cox has not been above 2 innings pitched in the majors, so I totally understand what you're saying about, like, don't want to mess with success. Let's just keep rolling with how this is. But I'm on board with trying to figure out what Austin Cox is at this point. I don't have high expectations of him. His K numbers are not great in the minors. They're very kind of a red flag. They're high right now. He is actually getting strikeouts. He's getting whiffs, and that just wasn't happening in Omaha very well. So that was very interesting development, and I'm curious to see what he can do if he kind of stretches that out a little bit, or if they need to bring him back down to 2 to 3 innings at a time. Let's figure that out. I have been dreaming of a scenario where they're able to open with a guy like Carlos Hernandez, who can pump triple digits past the dude, and then bring in a crafty lefty who's barely punching 90 right behind him for another 2 to 3 innings. I have been clamoring for that matchup at one point, just to see what it would do to a good lineup to kind of throw them off, keep them on their toes, and force them to use their bench a little bit more. So that might be a dream scenario for me, but we'll see how the Royals kind of want to move forward that way.
Visiting with Josh Kaiser, one of the other evaluation seasons we've talked about for a couple of years, and is what Bobby Witt can be. And a lot of frustration, and certainly on this show we've talked about, and concerns about on-base percentage. And we looked at players his age that have played as much as he has, which if you're that young and playing as much as he has, there's a lot of promise, and you've got a lot of talent as a younger prospect coming up. And his name did not match up with some of the higher-level players in Major League Baseball in what he's been doing in on-base percentage this early in his career. His name was actually with a number of guys that were like, oh, yeah, played a long time in the big leagues. That's kind of what they were known for. But over the last 22 games, small sample size. Josh, go ahead and take a drink of water. You look a little thirsty there. Small sample size for Bobby Witt, but last 22 games, batting 300, getting on base at 330, which feels like 100 points higher than what he typically was doing. OPSing around 800, and if you look at some of the extra base hits and the numbers that go along with this, less than a month of baseball, he would be pacing over the course of a season for 30 home runs and 60 stolen bases, along with another 25 doubles. Small sample size, or starting to figure it out a little bit that, he's got 4 walks in 22 games. There's something that at least you can look at, even though 3 of those were in one game, but still he had 3 walks in one game. That's you can't just dismiss that. So too early to tell. The talent has been there that you start putting it together. He's still a young guy, waiting for the other shoe to drop. What do you think of the last 22 games or so for Bobby Witt, that's playing like a guy that was talked about a lot before he got up to the big leagues and has struggled to get on base?
I think as a Royals fan, I'm conditioned to just wait for that other shoe to drop.
I know. That's what sucks about it, man.
Yeah, I want to believe, and I've vouched for guys, vouched for this team even far too much to really expect much anymore, especially as the season has gone. But I mean, there were reasons to believe that Bobby Witt Jr. was one of the most unlucky players in baseball. I mean, you were kind of you were talking about what he's done in the season so far, but when you looked at his expected WOBA on Baseball Savant, he was a top 51 hitter in the major league. So I think it was a mixture of trying to figure out what major league pitchers are going to do against him. He needed to figure out how to hit a fastball and do damage with it. He needed to get a little lucky. And I think getting out of that leadoff spot was also very important to what he's able to do. Kind of takes the added pressure off. You're not expected to be the guy getting on base and start rallies as much as he's driving in runs. So he's kind of creeping back up in the batting order. He's at second the last few games, but I think that might just because they're just so injury ridden here lately. It's just bonkers. So it might just be a lack of options that he's in the 2-hole. But yeah, I mean, I think he's taken a step forward, and he's actually getting some of that luck back that he wasn't getting before that. And it's just not as much pressure when you're not in the leadoff spot. So I think it's just a mixture of all those things that this could be a sustainable, successful thing.
And it's a good point because those numbers I'm looking at now, the batting order position, they are coinciding with him being taken out of the one spot.
Yep.
So maybe trying to the square peg round hole of is Bobby Witt Jr. a leadoff hitter when he's getting on base at 250 would tell you he's not a leadoff hitter. Can you move him down to the lineup, use him in different places, use him in different ways, and even if you're batting him second and moving him up there, it's still not the leadoff, and he's kind of got into a groove now since he was taken out of the leadoff spot. So I do wonder if there's something more to that than just, he's gotten hot at this particular time when it's hard to call that a coincidence, right, Josh? If he's doing what he's doing, it would be hard to say that's just there's no correlation causation to when now he's batting 300 and OPSing at 800 when he's not the leadoff hitter.
Yep, 100%. And I think there is. I mean, all these guys are feeling the pressure, and I think it's double so for Bobby Witt Jr. So if you're able to alleviate that even just a little bit by dropping him in the order, still keeping him up at the top, letting him know, like, you're very important to this lineup. We need you to get going, but you don't have to be the first one out there. I am a beta as far as it comes. I'm not an alpha by any means, but it just seems like getting that much pressure taking off of you in the leadoff spot is an absolute difference maker, regardless of what kind of outcome or what kind of mindset you have as far as alpha and beta goes.
Josh Kaiser, KC Sports Network, One Royal Way co-host podcast there. Josh, as always, I appreciate the time. Thank you, sir. Enjoy the podcast. So I appreciate you joining us, and thank you for the Wyndham Clark Father's Day drop. That was great, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me. If I can make you guys laugh while also talking Royals, that is the goal that I set out to have. So,
and typically it's gallows humor when we're talking Royals. So I'm glad there was an actual joke that was funny. So thank you, Josh. Appreciate
my pleasure.
Yep, absolutely. There's Josh Kaiser. Go check him out. KC Sports Network, and again, co-host of One Royal Way podcast. Good stuff there.
I don't love having a funny Josh on the show.
I think it's about damn time.
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace, I guess.
I think it's about time that we invested in one. So now we just need a funny James or Jason, either one. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will continue rolling. Mick Schaefer will join us at 1 o'clock. KSHB 41 Sports Director. We'll get into another Royal story that's out there that I kind of want to talk about and discuss. But also, Sporting KC got screwed, and Peter Vermees is rightfully upset about that. And we haven't talked about a local connection that could be going on with Bob Huggins and the pretty rough story there in West Virginia. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810.
Thank you to Josh Kaiser from KC Sports Network. One Royal Way podcast. We'll talk with Mick Schaefer coming up at 1 o'clock. Talking some Royals there with Josh. Let's hear from Samad Taylor. It was a cool story on Saturday, so I'm totally fine in continuing to relive it a little bit because what else is going on with the Royals? But here's Samad Taylor on with MLB Network and the star turn for Samad Taylor Sunday morning, hanging out with Adnan Virk and Jake Peavy. Here's that conversation, about 2 minutes long, with those guys and Samad Taylor.
Take us through it, man. Yesterday you got called up, and now you got your first major league hit. It's a walk-off. What are all the emotions you're experiencing right now?
I'm numb as we speak. I have no words. It's a dream come true. It's been something I've been chasing my whole life, and God put me in the position to put a good swing on the ball, and I put a good swing on it and got my first hit.
Samad, Jake Peavy here. Congratulations. I loved watching your family go crazy. It takes me back to making my Major League debut. Who was in the stands today? We all got a shot of them up there in the suite. Tell us who's there supporting you and getting to enjoy this walk-off with you.
I want to thank you. I appreciate the congratulations. My mom, Charlotte Johnson, my sister, Sakaya Taylor, my girlfriend, Alexia, my dad, and my uncle. My mom and sister and dad, they got in last night. My sister got in this morning, actually. My girlfriend's been with me this whole journey, this whole year. My uncle, he works down here, and he was headed home, actually, and he put a stop to his return back home, and he gave me a call last night and told me he was going to be here to support me.
That's awesome and so great to hear. How about Bobby Witt Jr. running out to the outfield to make sure he retrieved the ball for you? How cool was that?
I salute Bobby. That's big. That's money right there. He made it happen. He went and got it, and I got it now. I'm numb. I'm speechless, guys.
Yeah, you should be numb, pal. This has been the most exciting game that we watched. Talk about digging deep, and what was the spirit in the dugout? You guys down 8-2 late, kept coming, obviously led by Bobby Witt, your young leader there. What was the energy like? I know it's been a tough season, but you young kids in Kansas City still got a lot to prove, and we saw that today.
Like the game is. Until the final is made, the game's not over. Right. Like you said, we were down 6. I was coming in the dugout. I was just trying to keep the momentum going and get momentum. I was trying to get everybody going, and once everything is going, you can't stop it. Once the momentum gets going, it's hard to stop. You can be down 10 in the 9th and come back, and we were down 6 going into the 8th, put 3 up in 8, and then walked it off in the 9th.
The story there of Saturday, I was genuinely shocked when I looked at the score. I was doing a bunch of work in the yard and just exhausted because, the sun was out and no clouds in the sky when I'm like, you know what, I got to do all this work on the deck. And so I'm just go out there when it feels like 95 degrees. Perfect day to do that. So get inside. Royals game is on. I fall asleep around the 4th inning. And I wake up in the top of the 9th and it's 8-8. And imagine my shock when it's 8-8. I'm like, this game is over. It's toast. Or whenever I think it might have been they were down 8-1. I know the Angels had 8 runs when I fell asleep. So maybe it wasn't the 4th. Maybe it was the 6th. I don't know. But I wake up and I sort of look at the score a little bit. I'm like, it's 8-8. Like, how in the heck did that happen? And then Chapman gives up a run. So I'm like, oh, what? They're going to lose 9-8. So I end up watching the rest of the game, and then I rewound it to watch the whole thing. So it was an awesome story, but I didn't really live through it the way that a lot of people did because I fell asleep watching the Royals, which probably happens a lot because I think Royals players have fallen asleep out there watching the Royals and being out there and forgetting how many outs there might be on the field or where they should go with the baseball or am I going to call this guy off or not? I got a terrible jump on that ball because I wasn't really paying attention and locked in on this game because, they're losing on their way to losing 11 games in a row. And somehow they have this massive comeback. And you want to talk about bad beats. And I feel bad for Drake. And what was a bad beat over the weekend for him. on Saturday that Samad Taylor and Drake he is not going to get a Christmas card from Drake.
No, I had a same game parlay. I had 3 strikeouts to the Angels starter. He struck out the side in the first inning. I had a home run for Ohtani.
Check.
Got that. Angels are up 8-1. I'm feeling pretty good.
Check. Needed them to win. 3-leg single
Angels
game
take
parlay.
the lead 9-8 in the 9th. I'm feeling pretty good.
Won that, and there's no way the Royals are going to score 2. They may score 1, but they're not going to score 2. And out of all games where you just had to have the other team win, it's that one when they were up 8-1 and somehow they come through. It feels like I should have had money on that. Just like halfway through, like, you know what? I'm going to bet $10,000 to win $5 that the Angels win this one. They're up 8-1. You know, it's not even that big of a deal. Like the exact opposite of the guy that had $1,000 on Wyndham Clark to win the U.S. Open. 2 things. One, the $64,000 he won is, I can't believe that big of a deal to him. If you're placing $1,000 on a guy whose best finish in a major was 75th, then you're probably just throwing thousands of dollars at different guys. There's no way you collected your $1,000 and thought, I don't know that we're going to be able to pay the mortgage this month. Honey, I got a feeling about Wyndham Clark. Now, we can go stay a few nights out of Wyndham Clark and have a great vacation for a few days, or I can put this $1,000 on a Wyndham Clark, and if he comes through, we'd win $64,000. It's another person that had $500 and won, like, you know, $30,000. Like, yeah, again, if you're placing $500 on Wyndham Clark to win, the money may not be all that important to you. Or you've got a real problem and you're trying to dig out from a hole.
No, those aren't the kind of high rollers they wanted at that club watching the match over the weekend either.
They wanted people that are placing like $20,000 on a Wyndham Clark.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not, and the poker hands and things like that, and blackjack. You know what? I'm playing $5,000 a hand on blackjack because this is going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, I fell asleep during the game, woke up, saw some the score being tied 8-8. Have no idea how it happened, and just enjoyed it. Thought, oh, this is great. They won. Then I knew I was going to the game the next day, so I knew there was 0 chance they were going to win on Sunday because they had won on Saturday. So I'm like, well, that's all right. Let's just go out there and see if Ohtani can hit a home run. And he did. I just happened to be in another line at the Little K during Ohtani and Trout's back-to-back. So poor planning on my part. That's what that sounds like. That sounds like a me problem. Just terrible planning there. 913-912-4810 is the text line. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. Bob Huggins' story out of West Virginia does have a local connection to it in a sort of a coaching hire potential that's there. We talked about DeAndre Hopkins and the report out of New England of the feeling of whether the Patriots would jump through hoops for DeAndre Hopkins, and if there are a few too many accommodations they would have to make for DeAndre Hopkins, that maybe New England and Hopkins isn't exactly a match made in heaven of Bill O'Brien and DeAndre Hopkins returning to play again. So we talked a lot about that and the U.S. Open, and have yet to get into Bob Huggins and also Sporting KC getting screwed over the weekend. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Also going to hear from Dayton Moore in just a little bit. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com. In the
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Thank you to Google Fiber, best internet provider in the area, award-winning internet provider without data caps, annual contracts, or hidden fees. Now available up to 5 gigs, 1 gig internet at the same price since 2012. Internet easy to set up and use. You may never need the award-winning customer service at all. Needed it once, and I understand why it was award-winning. Let's hear from Dayton Moore. He had his See You in the Major Leagues event today and in town, and Todd Lebo out there talking with Dayton Moore, and Dayton discusses his current relationship with the Royals organization.
Well, I still follow the Royals. It's hard. I hurt for some of the failures of the players, but I'm very confident in this group that they're going to continue to get better. I'm aware of a lot of the different processes that they're going through, and when you put in new processes and things, it takes a little time. But I believe in these players. I believe in who they are as people. I believe in who they are as teammates. I believe in who they are as individuals who want to connect for the community and play for the community and play for our fans. But obviously, I'm focused more on, what I'm doing with the Texas Rangers. I love working with Chris Young. As you know, he was one of our players here in Kansas City. I'm not sure I've had a greater honor in my career, or one of our ex-players asked me to join him and be a part of what he's trying to do. And, the Rangers have never won a World Series championship. And, that's in the heart of Chris Young and the heart of Ray Davis, the owner there in Texas. And if I can be a small part of that, I'm thankful to be a part of that team.
So you obviously weren't done working in baseball. So was there no path forward for you to do something with the Royals? Is there anything you regret about the way it ended with
No,
with Kansas City?
Look, Totter, those are all good questions. And, I think, one of the things that, I think baseball teaches you is next. What's next? You think you're gonna square a ball up and hit it in the gap, and you pop it up to the pitcher. What do you do next? You run as hard as you can to first base. You think you're going to execute a pitch, and you think it's in a perfect spot, and the hitter squares it up. The pitcher's got to go back up a base. And that's just what baseball teaches you, to focus on what's next. And I love the Royals. Always have loved the Royals, and my family remains, in this community. We're going to pull for people to do well, and I can't allow myself to travel down any other road.
So there's Dayton Moore talking about when you implement new processes, it takes a while, so you got to wait a little bit to see what the fruits will bear from the labor that puts in with the new regime and things like that. Also, you start working with the Texas Rangers that is in a city where the Dallas Stars play. You start getting some hockey terms, and he called him Totter. Well, Totter, what do you say, Totter? Come on, Totter, eh? Totter. If it was if it ended with an E, that would be baseball.
Dottie.
Let's go, Drakey. Come on, what do you say? What do you say, Brisky?
Lebo is just such a good one that
Totter.
you don't get a lot of Todd spin-offs.
Totter. What do you say, Toddy?
Totter.
Come on. Totter. Good relationship with the Royals. There you go. Dayton Moore with the CU in the major leagues. Let's play this clip. Dayton was asked if he's thought about how this Royals team has gotten this bad.
It's hard because if you're not in the day-to-day trenches every day, I mean, you just don't know. You really don't. But I'm very confident in the group of people that are managing, the day-to-day operations of baseball operations. I've known J.J. Piccolo since he was 21 years old. I know that he cares deeply, and he's been raised well in this game, and they'll fight through it and they'll figure it out. But at the end of the day, players got to perform, and I've said this before. I mean, major league players aren't paid to play; they're paid to win, and eventually they'll get to that point in time in their career where they'll figure out how to win games. But there's a lot of talent on that field, and trust me, they'll get there at some point.
What if his answer would have been, yeah, I'm not sure. I've never put together a team that's had a 268 winning percentage before. I don't know. Worst, you can look through my track record. Worst I've ever had was, 358, which is roughly 100 points higher in winning percentage than what they're currently doing. So don't ask me how they got so bad. Teams that I put together never did that. Now I'm with the Rangers. They're the third best team in baseball. So how did a team get this bad? Why don't you talk to the people that are still there, huh? Made all those changes just to get worse. Maybe you lost the only thing that was keeping it together. That would be a heel turn for Dayton Moore. I wouldn't expect him to say that, but boy, that would have been vastly more entertaining.
Alternatively, maybe he goes, poof, I don't know, man. I screwed the pooch on that one, dude. I don't know. I thought we had something going. I was really wrong on a lot of stuff, so good luck, have fun, but yikes.
I mean, if we had to do it over again, we'd probably change every single draft we had.
My bad, guys. Poofy doof. Sorry about that.
I guess some of the guys weren't ready to come up and play. Did
you ever figure out what happened to Esky's cousin?
No, I mean if he was with the Braves, he would know exactly, what that was.
We got that guy locked up, right? Is he in the
Almost
system?
did.
Here to come up?
It's a little too much money. It's a little too much money. Damn it. Why you got to bring that up?
That one might be the most irresponsible, funniest thing to blame the Royals for, just because it's...
What if he would have said, what do you mean, Michael Garcia?
It's like, hey, you can...
Know all about him.
Good point.
Know all about him. It's a good player.
Like, to just go ahead, and I will force the Suns into a conversation, but for a sad reason.
Please.
Like, the Suns took DeAndre Ayton instead of Luka Doncic, while their head coach was Luka's head coach from Europe. Like, that's the...
You don't want to show favoritism.
That you can't. You got to take the guy that the owner wants. That to me is...
Well, that is actually true.
That's pretty much how that goes. That to me feels like my most analogous comp there.
You take the guy that signed your check wants.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if I take this other... Well, you're going to be fired if you take that other guy. But if I take this guy, I might be fired. But
better, though.
I can get a few years out of this one if I take that guy.
All right, boss. Sure thing.
Great. Let's do it.
Ayton it is.
Let's do it. By the way, coming up at 1 o'clock, this is going to be really interesting to watch. College baseball, it's College World Series. It's apropos of nothing we're talking about with Dayton Moore, except for college baseball and college hitters and baseball and draft and stuff. Matthews, the pitcher for Stanford, is going to the mound today against Tennessee, and his most recent outing in the Super Regional was very controversial because I think he got to 150-something pitches. He finished the game, 16 strikeouts. It was an epic performance that goes down in the history of Stanford baseball. Yet it was also the negative part of that is, wow, so you're just going to throw a guy out there that is expected to be drafted next month and just throw him for 160 pitches. Cool. Now, people have pointed out, well, yeah, you're still throwing this at, in pitch 140 and blah, blah, blah. I'm fascinated to see what he looks like today.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because if he goes out there and his miles per hour is off by 3 or 4 and he's getting hit around and it's like, oh, remember when everybody was like, oh, not a big deal, just let him go out there and throw 160 pitches in a game. I did see one that was kind of funny, and I can't remember who it was. It said, boy, there's a major league team that can't wait to draft him and make him pitch only 60 innings or 60 pitches and stop him at 60 pitches and get him out of there. They probably worded it better than I recreated it there. Because when you're sitting there writing it, you can delete and go back and delete and make it sort of perfect there. But you get the gist of that there's a major league team that can't wait to draft him and pull him after 60 pitches. Something along those lines. But yeah, that'll be interesting. They play it at 1 o'clock. And of course, then he's a soft tossing lefty. So the Royals would love to draft him.
Especially after we are pretty sure there's going to be a little bit of damage in that elbow somewhere.
Yeah. Although that was the worry about Lincecum, was that the guy can't pitch as well. Like he's had
the second
5
time today we
games.
talked about Tim Lincecum. It makes me really happy.
Well, we said, how do we mix in Tim? We get $5 every time somebody says Tim Lincecum. That's $10 for me now, and $10 for you.
I said it off air at one point. So yeah, Tim Lincecum. Whoop! I can't. I think I do it 3 times fast. It's too
natural.
It's too difficult.
Natural.
Oh, you have to weave it in.
Yeah, that's like you've got 9 rebounds, 10 assists, and 14 points, and you throw the ball off the backboard to try to get that rebound and then lay it up. That doesn't count. That
doesn't count?
I'm not going to give you that rebound.
That should count.
No, it doesn't count.
It should be an assist. That should count for all 3. If you go off the backboard to yourself and then dunk it, that you should get a rebound, an assist, and your 2 points.
Can you get an assist to yourself?
I don't think so, but I'm now thinking about it.
You know, I used to. You'd be out playing basketball by yourself, and you would flip the ball and spin it so it bounces and comes back to you, so you try to catch it.
Got to.
If you were all alone in the corner, and somebody threw you the ball and they tossed it and spun it back to you and caught it and shot it, shouldn't that be an assist because you sort of threw it to yourself?
I think it should be. Yeah, I think we need to expand this and just find more ways for Jokic to just rewrite the entire NBA history books, because he'd be the one that would start doing stuff like that.
Jokic is the first one that comes to mind?
I think so.
I was thinking Bradley Beal.
I'd love for it to be Bradley Beal. Hoping that man can also play 6 positions all at once. Roster's looking kind of thin.
Booker, Beal, and Durant. And Ayton, ABD.
Yeah, we're
ABBD.
I'd say don't buy a DeAndre Ayton jersey just yet. You're a big Suns fan. I'd say maybe go ahead and give it the offseason. The market's heating up.
You want to get a Chris Paul jersey?
Hearing that the
get a Chris Paul Wizards jersey.
Yeah, that'll be a collector's item. And right now, I think DeAndre Ayton, similar, same state, similar situation. I think he's on that DeAndre Hopkins grind. I don't know what it is about DeAndre's and trade values, but in Arizona. But I think I might see some movement there at some point. We'll see.
Said earlier in the show that I liked the tweet that said Kevin Durant's on his 5th super team. He's got 2 championships. He's on super team number 5.
This is Devin Booker's super team. This one's different.
Yeah. Well, no. It was Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, Ayton super team last year. Now it's Devin Booker, Durant, Bradley Beal super team. So it's now 2 super teams in 2 years. Well, 3 super teams in 2 years because he was on a super team to begin last year. Then he went to another
Different super team.
Got traded there, and now he gets one of his friends on this super team. These NBA stars getting their friends to play on different teams is getting out of hand. Do it the natural way, like LeBron winning in Cleveland.
Exactly.
The guy was drafted by the Cavs and won a championship with the Cavs.
Yes.
That's the natural way to do it.
It's how he did it. Did it the right way, as everyone said the entire time.
Now, along the way, if you can raise $2 million for the Boys and Girls Club and
that'd be great.
Start a school, all of that being around the Cleveland organization, if you can get an owner to write in Comic Sans, if you can get all of those things to happen, if you can get Chris Broussard to report something that you've already said personally, publicly, that you're doing, that all of those things are worth it.
I think it's all worth it. If you could get Cleveland to move to South Beach, that would be probably pretty cool.
That'd be cool too. But when you have a story that's I'm coming home, all about you returning to Cleveland, and then live on ESPN, Chris Broussard grabs his phone and goes, "I can now confirm that LeBron is heading back to Cleveland." What are you confirming? His own words?
He's in the gym right now. He's at the Cavs facilities.
Are you confirming what he just wrote?
Getting up shots.
Confirming what has been released to the public that
Ridiculous.
I'm coming home. Can now confirm. Would you read the Sports Illustrated piece?
You remember when, like, 2 weeks ago, Chris Haynes tweeted that the Suns were cutting Chris Paul, was waving him?
Well, they did wave bye to him.
They eventually did WAVE.
Yes, enjoy the Capitol for 10 minutes.
He was doing Good Morning America this morning. Yeah. I think there's a real chance he does not set foot in the District of Columbia while he's currently technically employed by them.
Warriors also have some moves. They have a couple players that have opted out of player options, being DiVincenzo and Draymond Green. So we'll see what happens with Draymond. Is he brought back? Does he go somewhere else? Does he join a super team?
Bring him to Phoenix.
Draymond needs to be on a super team. How many championships would Draymond get if he was on a super team?
I mean, let's come to Phoenix. We'll figure it out.
No, he can't play with Durant.
Bickmer Electric will get you up to code for your voltage load.
All right, so we got some controversy in a ruling in basketball because we were talking about, can you get an assist to yourself, which we know you cannot. But I had presented a scenario that, when you're playing shooting around by yourself, and you sort of spin the basketball away from you, it bounces and it comes right back to you like you're receiving a pass. And I said, well, if you do that in a game, and maybe you get an assist. And
sorry,
Nick Schaefer,
the Buzz Killington over here.
Yeah, you're saying that is a double dribble?
I think technically by the rules it's a double dribble. It's a two hands dribble to another two hands, right? And so I remember in high school there was debate because we got taught power dribble, right? It's a drop step, throw it down, catch it, go up. That these, I don't know, technical people, referees, or old school guys, that's technically a double dribble. And I saw it called in the game once, a power dribble called as a double dribble.
That's ridiculous.
That would, in this day
always
and age,
been a power dribble.
I don't
drop
know
step.
if I don't think they've called a double dribble in a game since 2017. Travel not since like 2020, I think, in a game.
No, they
They called it carry since it was in black and
It's
white.
so funny.
They start doing it in the playoffs more.
In
It's
the
like
NBA,
this.
it's so funny when they decide to call travel. I'm like, wait, that? It's almost like fouls in soccer. And when are you calling what? I'm like, wait, that's a travel. I get it, he kind of did, but back down court, that guy took 4 steps and everything was fine.
Texas, pretty sad celebrating a win to end a 10-game losing streak to pull within 32 games of 500, 44% of the way through the season. Kind of like storming the field after beating a Big 12 winless Iowa State football team. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit. But the story's fun, though.
Well,
it was a fun.
A win out of 162 is nothing compared to like a win out of 1 out of 12, right? When you hadn't won in a couple years.
Yes, it'd almost be like a team celebrating if they beat the Royals.
And
that
upsets
would be bad.
are a thing in football much more than they are in baseball, right? The worst team is going to beat the best team 1 out of 3 times.
Yes. But that scenario would be celebrating if you beat the Royals. Nobody's doing that. You fire people if you lose to the Royals.
I mean, and technically, better winning percentage now than the A's. They still have 19 wins each, but the A's are now on a 5-game losing streak.
Yeah.
See,
So-
luckily there's the lottery, or else they would have the number 2 pick. Now they get a chance to get the number 1 if they finish in the bottom 3. Just finish in the bottom 3. That's it. You've done enough work.
If they're in the
to
bottom
put
3, what's the worst pick they could have? Is it 3? Or could they go even
5?
like,
I think
lower?
5. I don't know the whole bottom 3 thing. I'm not sure. That's a different set of rules. I know they've all got the same percentage of getting the number 1 pick, the worst 3 records.
They've all got the 16.5% chance of the number 1 pick. I'm a net.
Right.
Takeathon has an MLB page now,
Yeah,
so.
but what's the worst pick you can be?
Well, I
if
hit
you've
Sim
got-
Lottery once and they dropped to 6, so we know at
So I
least
thi-
6.
So the lottery is 1 through 6. So I think the worst pick you can be is 6th if you're one of the bottom
So
3.
it's not like the NBA. You got to have the worst record and pick 14th.
Refreshed again. Royals got the first pick,
Right.
guys.
So
Leave
first,
it there. Don't change the
so
page.
first or 6th, first pick or 6th pick.
Oh, they got the 7th on this one, so.
So never
I think,
mind.
I mean, I'm seeing teams jump and drop pretty far, but the actual worst teams I haven't seen get lower than that.
I don't know. There's probably somebody out there that has that particular rule.
I'm
I don't
gonna
know.
get it. I'm gonna get there.
I just know of
End of
the
this segment. Give me 20 minutes.
I just know of the asinine rule of if you're revenue sharing team that with competitive balance, that if you get money in revenue sharing, that you can only be in the lottery twice. So then that third year, twice in a row, then that third year, the earliest you can pick is 10th. So the Royals, we know, will be in the lottery next year because they're bad. But if they are crap in 2024, the best they can pick in 2025 is 10th.
It's 10th. Wow.
Which is awesome for small market teams. You know, it's great. It's because it's like,
Where did they pick last year?
they picked.
Was that outside of 10?
7th? No, they were in the top 10. I think it was 7th where they took Gavin Cross.
Yeah.
Gavin Cross was 7th, or was Mazzucato 7th?
Lottery wasn't in place then.
Cross was
No.
number 9
So
overall.
that's so
Ninth,
So,
okay,
it's
so
basically-
ninth.
it starts this year.
So this is the first year. Next
the
year they'll
third year.
definitely be in the lottery. So that'll be back-to-back years. So it doesn't matter how bad they are next year. The best they can pick is 10th.
Maybe
the
they'll
year
do
after
better
that.
that way.
And I do
It's just so
have
stupid.
I have our odds for
Asinine.
the top 3.
Yeah.
They actually, each team down can actually fall 1 spot further. So right now, the A's could drop to 7. The Royals could drop to 8, but that's only a 2.8% chance. So
the worst they can pick is 8th.
if they're the second worst record. If they're the worst record, the worst you can pick a 7th. But and also, the scary thing is that
Is
the
that the
Royals would
scary thing?
have the same odds of getting the first pick as they do the 7th. It's about 16.5%.
Now,
It's 16.2.
the lottery is really cool. I think Major League Baseball killed it with the lottery and trying to stop tanking. Hey, guess what? The Royals aren't tanking.
No, I mean that's the thing. Can
I
we
wish
maybe
they
we just need
were.
like a board that we can
But, like,
submit an appeal to?
How dumb is that? Hey, you're a small market team. We know the economics of baseball are crap and are bleep sandwich. And there's nothing we can really do because we can't get a salary cap or a salary floor, all of that stuff with the players. We know it is awful, but we're going to say that you can only pick in the top 10 back-to-back years. After that, sorry, you can only pick outside of the top 10, even though you're a small market team, even though you may or may not be tanking. Even though in baseball, it's harder to rebuild a team over years, whereas in the NFL, it could be 1 year to the next. All of a sudden, you're not in what would be the lottery. Baseball's harder to build an entire farm system and redo an organization. And we also know that you can't go out and buy players the way that others can, but we're also going to have it detrimental to you by only having the lottery back-to-back
The
years.
Royals have picked in the single digits for the majority of my lifetime. Okay,
I think it was
and it's not given them
Brady
a
Singer
competitive advantage.
and Brandon Finnegan might be
15 and 16 they didn't.
16, did they have a draft pick in 16? Didn't they lose a draft pick? Their first-round draft pick or something in 2016 because of a
You'll remember better
free
than
agent
me.
or something like that. 17's first-round draft pick was Prado. Or did they
So
lose
maybe
it in
picking
18?
lower is a good idea.
They pick it in, yeah, see? Because Prado was the 14th pick.
I think Billy Butler was like the 16th. Was that right after 03? They were kind
Billy
of right
Butler
in
was
the middle.
14, it looks like, yeah.
14th pick. You're so stupid. He wore number 16,
I know,
you
maybe
idiot.
that's why I thought that.
How dumb are you?
Very.
How stupid
No
is...
first round pick in 2016. Jason's so smart.
I don't know why they didn't have a first. I know there's something with competitive balance and losing that with like a free agent or something, or they were like the Royals won a World Series.
Yeah,
they cannot pick.
Too good.
16. The whole world has stopped spinning if the Royals ended up winning a World Series. No chance, folks. So yeah, that'll be fun. So they'll get a top 3 pick. I still don't know how low. So it's 8th, I guess, is the lowest you can pick. So that's fun. Cool.
For the second pick.
Second worst or whatever. So
the average for the basically it's decimals here are rounded, but
cool.
The top 3 picks would average out at being around the 4th pick. So that's sort of the cruelty of the lottery. Is it's not like you have a top 3 pick. You could be 1, 2, or 3, and they just shake those up. There's a better chance that you would fall from 2 than there is that you would move up to 1.
Well, the Royals fell from 5 to 8.
Yeah.
In a draft where they go, well, there's 5 legit prospects, and after that, there's a little bit of a drop-off. So if you get one of those 5, first 5 picks, you're feeling good about that. The Royals, don't worry, you got the 5th pick. Oh, no, lottery, you got the 8th. Oh, darn it, you could have got the 1st and got Dylan Cruz or Paul Skeens.
But that won't matter. They could
You're
have
right. Yeah, it's
5
true.
of the top 10 picks in this year's draft, and it wouldn't matter.
Well, yeah, if they had 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then they would lose out on the top 5 guys that everybody says are the top 5 guys, and then there's a gap. So they would get the rest of the bunch, unfortunately.
Either swing and miss on them or just not develop them.
Yeah, well, they would draft somebody with a lot of swing and miss, just not a pitcher. That's the problem. The pitcher wouldn't create swing and miss, and the batter would have
Pitcher,
a whole...
man, he was a hit. We squared him up.
How was your Father's
knocked
Day?
him out of the park.
How was your Father's Day?
It was
Nick?
great. We played. We had some forced family fun. Played some golf. All 5 of us. Little deal with a bunch of our neighbors and friends. Everybody got a group together in a tea time, and you had a little scramble for 9 holes, and whichever family had the best score won this little makeshift trophy we had.
It wasn't in the
made
morning
for it.
though, right? With the rain and everything. Were you able
No,
to-
we missed it. It was great.
Good.
And I went to work in the morning, got the show together and everything,
Nice.
and so golf from like 1 to 3:30 because we were really slow, and we weren't good. We're in 1 under, not even close to
you
the
guys lost?
Harrises -5. Of course, they
Do
do have
not-
2 college-age boys who are really tall, can hit it a mile.
I've warned you about playing golf against the Harrises.
I know.
I've told you time and time again.
I
Don't
know.
scramble with the Harrises.
Suck us in.
Every time. So what kind of trophy did you give away? Was it a real one? Is it like a tinfoil one?
No, we have the lady made this or had it purchased and had the little plate on it and said 2023 Father's Day golf thingy scramble
How about
thingy.
that?
Yeah,
Golf thingy, scramble thingy. That's awesome, man. And just between the 2 families. So,
no, they were like 10 to 12.
Oh, okay.
That makes more sense.
If there was only like 9 to 11 and no Harrises, you would have won.
Right. And so it depended. Like, I mean, some people have, older children. Some have younger children. Some have more boys. Some have more girls. I mean, if you have girls that can play some golf, you're hitting from the red tees. Big advantage there. And so we had an 11-year-old girl who just rode in the cart. She got the putter out some. That was about it.
You say she rode on the cart, like it's on the roof, just holding on up there.
She was.
Yeah, forced family fun.
So most of the time, everybody didn't completely hate it, so it was fine.
That's
was
great.
That's all right.
That is great.
My Father's Day.
Let's change it to not a good Father's Day or a great story. Bob Huggins with West Virginia, he resigned on Saturday night. And once the news came out, there was no other result. There was no other end to that story. Bob Huggins was not going to be coaching West Virginia basketball this year with what happened a few weeks ago. And then this. And the details of the story are mind-boggling. When he was pulled over, he had 3 times the legal limit of blood alcohol content. He was in the middle of the road with a tire torn to shreds that people were having trouble going around him as he was blocking traffic. He didn't know where he was. He thought he was in Columbus. He was not in Columbus. He had told the officers he had just went to Wendy's or Burger King. I can't remember which restaurant. They finally found a receipt of him going to the restaurant like 4 hours before that. And he said that's the last thing he remembered being at. He had trash bags full of beer cans in his trunk and in his front seat.
I mean, you have to try really hard, I think, to get a DUI in West Virginia.
And if you have trash bags full of beer, that's not like, I made a mistake. I went to a bar and I drank too much. You're just driving around drinking. You are literally drinking and driving. You're not driving under the influence. You are quite literally drinking and driving, which is what he was doing, which is incredibly dangerous, obviously. And thank God nobody was hurt because he clearly was tanked and was out of it in the conversation he was having with the police officers. And that's not like I just made a mistake.
It's not a couple glasses of wine at dinner.
It's a habit, you would imagine.
Yes, it's an issue. It's a problem. It's a problem. There's no other way that I could think to describe it. If you have trash cans of or trash bags of beer cans in your car that you're driving around with, that's not randomly popping open a beer. And if you've got and you didn't go somewhere to then drink that, you've just been hammering them in the car. So he resigned, which is not a surprise, but man, the details are awful in this thing of what was going on.
So it wasn't at an event or something like that where they were like, I don't know, like concert or something where you put them all in the trash bags, you haul them home. These were open. He was throwing them in there.
Yeah, had them in the trunk, had them in the front seat, had them in the back seat. Just a car full of like beer cans that were empty and just.
You had multiple bags of beer cans. I'm guessing, and they were drank that day.
Just collecting
it
them.
It would be more than 3 times the legal. I saw 0.21.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think they were drank that day. That's why I'm saying like this is like collecting over time.
It's just a way that
that's what I do. Which doesn't. The cops don't care when you drank it. It's an open container too.
But especially when you failed so many different field sobriety tests, you don't even know what city you're in, and just the danger that presents. And I don't know what's going on in Bob Huggins' life behind the scenes. I do wonder if when he was on the radio, was he fully sober?
I wonder that in real time. He sounded out of sorts in the
Was he of sound mind and body while he was having that conversation to realize what he was talking about, or just like intoxicated?
Stands to reason. There's no way. The amount of media he's done, and the length of time he's done it, that he would, in sober mind and sound mind and body, say something like that.
Yeah, I don't know where he was driving to or what he was driving to, but.
Huggins told this is from ESPN story. Told officers he had been to a basketball camp with his brother in Sherrodsville, Ohio, about 90 minutes from Pittsburgh.
Well, yeah, it was in Pittsburgh. It was Pittsburgh police that pulled him over.
It's admission, and again, going back to not knowing where he was, an officer said Huggins was asked multiple times what city he was in, but never got a clear response, with the coach mentioning the city of Columbus a few times. So I don't know if he actually was coming from the basketball camp or not, but that's what's in the ESPN article.
Yeah. So, wherever he thought he was just coming from was 4 or 5 hours before that. Yeah. Wren Baker And so, look, he's out, and hopefully whatever's going on in his life, he'll get it taken care of. Can we hear from Pete Thamel? Only because Mick Schaefer's with us, so we waited to play anything Pete Thamel until Mick Schaefer got here.
Him and his cousin.
He weighs in on the now West Virginia job opening and what the latest is going to be with that.
It's interesting because of the power of the Country Roads Collective. West Virginia has one of the top transfer classes from the portal this season. So Wren Baker, the athletic director, faces an interesting path here. I was told tonight that West Virginia is going to open it up to a national search. They're going to interview interim candidates, but they perceive this job as one of the better jobs in college basketball, much because there's the financial muscle behind it in the NIL space.
This is going to be interesting, and there's a local tie-in to what's going on now with the Mountaineers. The AD at West Virginia is Wren Baker, who was the AD at Northwest Missouri State for 3 years. This is from CJ
Strat, quarterback.
Moore.
Yes,
CJ Moore. Thank you.
Are we getting to Ben McCollum here?
Yes. He writes here about Wren Baker when he was at North Texas, and he talked about Ben McCollum. Wren Baker said that he fielded a half dozen calls from Division I ADs asking about McCollum. Neither the interest nor the stature of the school prompted McCollum to seriously consider leaving Maryville for a higher level job. Baker was asked if McCollum would succeed at Division I, and he said, he'd kill it. He could coach anywhere, I mean anywhere, any league, any level, at the highest of levels. He's that good. Baker's theory for why McCollum is still at Northwest Missouri State: most athletic directors are risk-averse. On top of that, few ADs came up through Division II. There's a perception that the difference in levels is like going from junior varsity to varsity. So you've got the West Virginia AD already on record of saying this guy's going to kill it at any level he coaches at. Division I, highest levels of Division I. He's that good. And the only reason he hasn't been hired is because ADs are risk averse. Essentially, they're scared of taking a chance on a guy like Ben McCollum. Wren Baker, the stage is yours. I am not rooting for Ben McCollum to head to West Virginia, while also rooting for Ben McCollum to finally get an opportunity that is deserved with how good he's been.
And he's had opportunities.
He's had opportunities where
he didn't
it's
want to do this the mid-major, the D2 to mid-major, and then look for your big job there.
But
that
also,
would be skipping a step.
Some of them were like small major that were like, hey, we want to bring you in. And it's like, well, I'm doing more here at Northwest Missouri State than I would there.
He's been there since 2009.
Yeah, it's like not even, it's kind of a step back, even though it's Division I, but it's like,
So
it's kind of a step back.
Baker got there in 10 to Northwest, so he didn't hire him.
No.
But he spent
4 years
with him.
Yeah, with Ben McCollum. And that was really before McCollum started winning championships and building this program. I think Ben McCollum's a phenomenal coach. I also know that he's had some people reach out, some ADs reach out of some bigger programs that he would be interested in, but ultimately decided that they couldn't go that route with a Division II coach. But they wanted to reach out and do their due diligence. Well, we're talking to one of the best coaches in America. He just happens to be a Division II. We're not going to hire him, but we're going to talk to him and just sort of kick the tires. If maybe down the road he coaches at another smaller school, and then it's like, hey, remember we talked to you when this job was open back when you were at Division II? So we've had interest in you for a while. Let's just make sure our Rolodex continues to be deeper and deeper. I wonder if Wren Baker even considers Ben McCollum, or if he's now in this position as an AD, and it's a little different when he's coming through the ranks as an AD and is going,
risk averse now?
This guy is going to kill it at the highest level, and these ADs are too risk averse to hire somebody like Ben McCollum. Wren? What you thinking?
He's got to at least have him in for an interview, right?
Or
does that open the door too much? You pretend you don't see him. Pretend you forgot he existed. Delete these quotes.
Well, here's the thing. If he hires Ben McCollum, he will be torched publicly.
No.
Maybe West
You
Virginia
think?
fans, if they hired a Division II coach to coach at West
I
Virginia,
mean, he's
would.
what, 5 national titles in like the last 6 years or something like that.
And if
4
you
or
went,
5,
and if you
4 or
went
6.
down to Division II to hire that guy, I think you would be asked to leave by the fans. I don't think you should be, because I think he'd be successful wherever he goes. I'm a little biased, but I also don't think that you randomly luck into being a dominant basketball program like Northwest Missouri State has been year after year after year. I don't think that's just happenstance, and the offense they run is awesome to watch, and it's incredibly entertaining, and they're a really well-coached team. I think he'd be able to recruit, and especially when they say the Country Roads Collective is one of the best in America. It's why they have this recruiting or this transfer class. So is it about the collective, or is it about people getting to Morgantown? So if it's about the collective, then how great of a recruiter do you really have to be if you've got the money backing there? So then can I get a guy that can put a bunch of guys together and have a really good basketball team that's going to play a fun style of basketball, that's going to get up and down and shoot it and pass it and cutting, and it will not look stale, and you won't be watching a game going, why is Konzo Martin having this guy just pound the ball into the floor constantly? You were about to have a fast break. Why did you stop them at half court? Why did you put up a speed bump right there? That's odd that you would put. Like, that is not going to be the case with Ben McCollum. I think he's going to be successful. I just don't think even the guy that said ADs are too risk averse to hire Ben McCollum would have the stones to do it.
Well, Beeline was there before Huggins, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he came from Richmond, which was D1, right? Smaller school.
Where was Beeline? Was Beeline ever Division II?
He was Canisius before Richmond, and that's D1 still, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Bruce Pearl was Division II.
Yeah.
Came from the Division II ranks.
Straight to
he moved up
Tennessee.
He moved up to get to Tennessee, but he at one point was a head coach.
I
at
would
II.
say this. I mean, that was their native son, and Bob Huggins, right? West Virginia. That was the only coach they wanted for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
He went to K-State, and when that job came open, bam, he left.
1 year.
And so I would say there would be a large percentage of the boosters who would be upset at whoever comes in. Probably a large percentage that are upset right now.
Probably you shouldn't have fired him.
That he got fired.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going to be a tough act to follow for just about anybody. But I mean, unless, and most of the time, fans don't know the next coach coming in unless it's some name brand guy. And I don't know if you get that at West Virginia. I don't know if they have any other native sons. Isn't Mike D'Antoni, I want to say, West Virginia guy? He's related to the Hatfields and the McCoys, one of the two. And so that one of that side was West Virginia, right? When
He was a high school. His father was a high school basketball coach in West Virginia. He was born. Mike D'Antoni was born in West Virginia. Good pull, Mick.
Is that related to either a Hatfield or the McCoy, whichever was the West Virginia side?
So we twice now have had a Tim Lincecum reference in the show, and now twice at different times have had a Hatfield and McCoy organic reference in the show.
Today.
Wow. Yeah. What did we say the Hatfield and McCoys were the Royals and Winds? That rivalry between the Royals and Winds is like the Hatfield and McCoy. That
wasn't even that long ago.
That great rivalry.
like 30 minutes. An hour.
That's right. We were talking about great rivalries in sports, and Josh Kaiser said, well, Chiefs and Bengals, best rivalry in North American sports. I would put up their Royals against the win column is a good rivalry. I'm like, it's Hatfield and McCoy's, man. I mean,
I would say in a situation
right.
where most people are going to hate it anyway, this is the perfect time to bring in a D2 guy who's, these are D1 guys he's bringing in, guys that could play. And maybe that he won't have that anymore, right? Mm-hmm. He won't have that other level to poach guys, bring guys down from and say, look, there's overlap here. You're going to be on the bench for this big-time team, or you're going to get swallowed up, or you're going to be a star for a team that's not going to win much at the D1 level. Come here. You'll be a star for a team that wins all the time. He won't have that. But, if you watch how he coaches and just the way the ball moves and the offense and the freedom of movement and just the success he's had, you'll know that's not the only thing he does.
Well, it's amazing, like what would make a head coach prospect, somebody that's coached for that long at the Division II level and having that success, or a high-level assistant coach that's never actually coached in Division I. Tom Izzo never coached in Division I. Jerome Tang never coached in Division I. Those guys turned out to be incredibly successful. But being Division I is different than even being a head coach at Division II. Like, this guy's run his own program. This guy's been a foot and a half away from, running their own program. And that's a large distance from being the second man to being the man that all of the questions are asked to you, and the timeouts and the technicals and the recruiting and everything and the wins and losses are you, not the other guy, and you're part of the team and everything like that. Izzo killed it.
Well,
Jerome Tang is killing it so far at K-State.
I would say Northwest Missouri State over the last 5 or 6 years has been better than 75% of the Division I teams out there, maybe higher. How many D1 teams is like 350 now or something like that?
Yeah, 350, 360. You're right.
I mean, they went to Duke and lost by 6.
Yeah,
right. I know that's a one-off game, but I mean, they're better than more than half. I would say more than 3/4. And so, do you need just the D1 label right in front of your head coaching name to be able to make that step to a power conference like the Big 12? Do you need that? I would argue that he's basically already been coaching at a D1 school.
If Northwest Missouri State went D1 in like the A-Sun or something like that, then it'd be like, well, now
we can take him.
Now he's a D1 coach there, because like Bellarmine won a national title and then they joined D1, and it's like, well, their coach was a Division II coach. He wasn't going to get any looks. Well, now he's a Division I coach. So do you look at him now? Because he's coached in Division I, and you know what? They won the conference tournament, but they were in the Division I probationary period where they couldn't go to the NCAA tournament. This was last year.
Who's the point guard from Manhattan? Kansas played for him. He's with the Rockets now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he coached some big-time talent, got some big-time guys in there.
Absolutely did. Hodges. And so, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But I think it's a fascinating sort of tie-in with Wren Baker and West Virginia opening up.
I think it's
we'll see.
Great opportunity.
I would love to see him get the chance. And selfishly, I'd also be fine if he stayed at Northwest Missouri State forever. But I think he deserves to get an opportunity with what he's done and continued to do. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Learn funniest best on the other side of the break. We go around the room. What we learned, what the funniest, what the best was from the weekend. It's a Monday edition of The Zone at Sports Radio 810 WHB.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
What, Todd? What do you want?
Hey, Todd.
We're doing a show, Todder.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, the O State guy won.
He came in to ask if Ricky's bogeyed again.
The Oregon guy won.
What is this?
The
See, that's a typical
Oregon
Sooner
guy
fan.
won.
Everybody's like, no,
Wow.
Todd's not like all the other Sooner fans. Yes, he is. He's just dressed up. He's got pearls in that pig. Look at that. That's what Sooner fans do. Well, I mean, what is that? What is that?
I just asked.
Name a good OU golfer right now.
Abe Answer. He's on the lip tour.
Let's play the clip from Pete Thamel here. That I'm just joking.
Gosh.
Speaking of great OU alums, Pete Thamel was talking about somehow started talking about Mike Gundy instead of Bob Huggins. Just started weighing in on that. It's really weird that he did that. But no, it's
They
Learn
don't
Funny's
care
Best.
about any sport besides football, okay? Unless something happens to O State.
Softball they claim now because they're good at
because
it.
they're good at it. And men's gymnastics, they are great
Yeah,
at.
yeah, I didn't know.
Didn't know
Oklahoma
that.
State dominates the Bedlam Trophy Series every year. They combine all the sports and everything. It's not even close. They get dominated. They get dominated.
Yesterday was a bad day, though. You had an Oklahoma State guy just pee down his leg with a chance to win it, and an Oregon guy go and play well and win it.
He was
that
mostly
Wyndham.
Oklahoma State. Okay.
Wyndham Clark. Time for Learn Funniest Best is presented by Pyramid Roofing. For a free estimate, 816-966-1101. Check them out, pyramidroofingkc.com. All right, a number of things I learned over the weekend. Don't need to rehash the beginning of the show, random little K conversation. But I also learned that Wyndham Clark winning the championship, from what he did, and I had mentioned these numbers earlier in the show because I didn't care about saving it for Learned. When he turned pro in 2017, until February of this year, he had made $5.6 million in his career. Since February, he's made $9.5 million.
Yeah.
He made $9 million in his career until the last month, and he's made 7.2 in the last month by winning 2 tournaments and $3.6 million for both the winning purse for him.
Maybe he'll donate to the Oregon NIL Collective or
You
something with
should.
some of that money.
He actually should.
Give back to his school.
Him and Phil Knight. They need a lot more money there at Oregon. Do they have
Does
cool?
Todd know that's not the OU he cheers for?
Do they have cool golf uniforms too at Oregon? Do they change around the different
I'm sure they
golf
do.
bags and golf uniforms and things like
I'm
that?
sure they're not lacking.
Khakis. They probably are not. But Wyndham Clark, a pretty awesome story. Different from Michael Block in that Michael Block was like out of nowhere and you knew it was sort of a one-off. Wyndham Clark's been talked about as like, this guy's got talent, but he can't get out of his own head and can't put it together. And somewhere along the line this year, and maybe it was the Phoenix Open when he finished 10th, because since then he's been a different golfer, and he's made $9.6 million since starting the Phoenix Open. It's just, I don't think this is a guy that we won't be talking about a year from now. I think this is a guy who's really talented, that's figured something out, that's starting to click.
I mean, how many up and downs did he get yesterday? Just chipping up there, just tapping it in.
He had one that's still shocking to Paul Azinger on the 9th.
The one where he was in the gunch right next in like the wall of the bunker right next to the green.
In the
where
what?
The wall of the
gunch.
bunker.
The gunch?
The gunch.
The
It's an
gunch.
actual.
I believe it's a
an
real one.
actual
I
golf
just
term.
wanted to hear you say it again.
It's a big, heavy, thick grass.
Okay.
Swung and missed, or at least it knocked it back.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, you're like, you need to just take a drop. He goes again, puts it on the backside of the green, 2 putts for a bogey. That was huge right there.
Yeah. On the 9th when he was the greenside bunker and he hit it 20 feet to the left to then use the slope
And
and
then
gets
just-
all the way down within 6 feet, hits the putt. Yeah, it was. He clearly is good, and I can't believe he was able to survive from 2017 to February on only $5.6 million. So he'll get it figured out, though.
Sounds like the gunch won't steal his Christmas.
What tent was he living in?
I don't know, man. But he was probably the guy that was walking in stealing Starbucks of the order ahead pickups. Just walking in, nobody ever checks that. Josh, what'd you learn over the weekend?
I learned
Gunch. You learned what Gunch is.
I learned that. I learned that Jason's son is a mountain of a man. And I also learned this tidbit here.
It was like the texter said. It was the mustache that gave it away.
Yeah,
But maybe
that
he should not have been out
not
there.
have
with
his
a
ID says,
little kid.
I am 5.
That's right.
A quarter of an inch was a little too much for him. I told her, I was like, if he takes his shoes off, he won't be too tall.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Go ahead.
Kid shouldn't have been wearing heels. This is from podnews.net. I don't know if you guys saw the Spotify news of the weekend.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Archwell, the podcast company owned by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, will not have his contract renewed with Spotify. The decision was mutual, according to a statement. However, speaking on his podcast, Bill Simmons, who is a senior Spotify podcast executive, called them effing grifters. Meghan Markle's podcast produced just 12 episodes in a $20 million contract.
Whoa.
The Wall Street Journal suggests that she may not earn the full amount after not meeting the productivity clauses. Pod News has heard from multiple sources that some interviews on the show were done by other staffers with her questions edited in afterwards.
Oh, my.
And I just learned that other shows are doing that because we've been doing that for years here. Drake actually does all the interviews, and then we just dub over them.
Mick, it's time for your learned.
I recorded this right now in April.
Mick has not been in this studio since 6 months ago, whenever that would have been.
I mean, she's not wanting for money, so does she need to do a podcast for $20 million?
She's also apparently not wanting for podcasting. I don't know. Why do this?
She's not wanting to put in, like, if you gave me $20 million to do that, I mean, I would give you 7 podcasts a day.
Yes.
20. You need 20 I'll do the 20 podcasts a day.
I'll murder my guests afterward, too. It's $20 million.
Because I can hand it down to my kids while I'm serving life. But I would have, the commissary would be filled. I mean, I would be running that place.
You got a lot of cash to play with. You can make some people disappear.
I'd be trading cigarettes out left and right. I'd have everything I could possibly need.
Man, hold on. This is a good idea, Mick. Last
buns.
Interviews is the name of the show. Ooh.
Do you have any last words? What's you learned from the weekend, Mick?
I learned that soccer just does not want you to score goals. I mean, it's they don't want it to happen. That they already you have the offside, which is the dumbest thing ever, right? It's stupid. Can't change it. The rest of the world loves it. The rest of the world's dumb. Okay, and then now you can just go back in time and assess fouls after goals and say that goal didn't happen. 21 seconds.
And
before the goal was scored, they went back and they called a foul.
Is part of the, quote, attacking phase. 21 seconds later, they're still in the attacking
play.
play.
That's a long attack.
Yeah, I mean, good night,
And by
dude.
the way,
bear attacks don't even last that long.
He did have possession of the ball, and when he went to kick it, his toe hit it before it hit the shin of the defender.
While the guy behind him was sort of grabbing him and pulling him back, which could have thrown him off balance if we're really getting at, looking at fouls or whatever, but... You know, it's not a big deal. MLS doesn't need to get out of their own way.
And then Daniel Shalhoub dares not to flop.
That's the problem.
In the box, right? When he's being pulled back from behind, his shirt, his jersey. He doesn't flop, doesn't get the call. The guy, before the Espinoza goes down like somebody shot him.
They had 2 guys.
Another guy in the box just decided to lay down for a while.
They're up by a goal in the final minutes of stoppage.
I'm just going to sell it.
And you've got 2 guys that fall to the ground like their legs were severed.
I'll never walk again.
Severed, and they get rewarded for that. And Shalhoub fights through it.
Yeah.
And if he would have just fallen, if he falls, and Van Gundy and Mark Jackson have talked about this too. They've had calls to where the guy, got hit back but didn't fall, and they didn't call a foul. And Van Gundy's like, if he falls, they call that
it's
a charge.
It's the stupidest thing about a charge forever is that,
you got to fall.
You have to fall.
Yeah. He's like, you want guys to stop flopping, then officiate the game where they don't have to flop. Yeah. And MLS, officiate the game where you don't reward the people that fell and rolled around, and reward the person that played through the contact while being pulled and fouled, but he didn't fall, so therefore he doesn't get a penalty kick.
Or I don't know.
Get out of your own way,
add
MLS.
more than one referee on the field. That's bigger than a football field where they have 8 with the same number of guys.
No, one guy can just run the whole.
It's
he
fine.
sees everything.
Totally fine. Yeah, and there's never any arguments between him and the players at all.
No, they don't have to stop and discuss those things ever. It's not a big deal. There's a kick clock, so there's no arguing.
God, it makes it so annoying, man.
Yeah, that was a frustrating one. That was really frustrating.
Why can't we add more refs?
It's the worst thing
Put three
about
out
the
there?
sport in that, like, never is there are no other sports where so often you dominate a game and lose or tie, but so often you lose, right? And most of the time, now there's upsets, ball bounces weird, football, all these other sports. Most of the time, though, in these other sports, the team that plays the best wins the game. Not even close in soccer.
What did you learn, Drake?
I learned that you can be elected into a Hall of Fame and just say, no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. And that is David Freese got elected into the Cardinals Hall of Fame and declined politely. And then I liked his tweet. He said, thank you to all the people who have zero opinion one way or another. You know how to live your life. Enjoy the rest of your summer.
Why did he? I mean, I have zero opinion one way or another as to why. But why did he?
Sounds like he has an opinion on those people having an opinion.
Why did he decline
this
the
game
Hall
all
of
day?
Fame?
Well, they were putting him in basically on the strength of that one postseason where he just carried the team. It was an amazing, red hot thing, and he just felt like he hadn't done enough as a Cardinal to warrant being in their Hall of Fame. So he declined.
Good for him, man. That's awesome. Pete Rose actually wants to know, can he be in the Cardinals Hall
He
of Fame?
should get inducted now.
Lobbying to be in the
He played for two red teams.
He's getting 2-1 odds that he gets in. Josh, what was the funniest from the weekend?
You guys familiar with the Kansas City Royals?
Are you Meghan Markle?
Yeah, different Royals. Both of these are Royals, though. They haven't been very good this year. You familiar with Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout?
I am, actually.
Anyway, as tweeted by Talkin' Baseball, Shohei Ohtani took the MLB lead in home runs, and Mike Trout had his first multi-hit game since May 29th, as the Angels blew an 8-2 seventh-inning lead against the Royals, the team with the worst record in Major League Baseball. Tungsten Armo Doyle does it again.
They're the best. They are the best Tungsten Armo Doyles in the history of Tungsten Armo Doyles. What was the funniest for you, Mick?
So this was it might have been probably a troll job, but it was hilarious either way. It was posted on, was it Neighbors? Is that what it's called? The Nextdoor app.
Nextdoor, yeah,
app,
Nextdoor.
right?
Might as well be Neighbors. But yes.
Yeah, Nextdoor app. It says, just a reminder to all parents this summer that if your child plans to operate a lemonade stand, they should be doing so in an area that is zoned for commercial activity. I've already had to file a few complaints with the county. I understand the convenience these stands might offer for those who might be craving lemonade, but I would implore you not to patronize these stands as they do not uphold the character of our neighborhood. In general, I think it's a good principle not to allow any commercial activity in residential areas. While some might say it would be nice to walk to a small grocery salon or beer garden, I've gotten used to driving for these things. It's the way our country has always been. I'm sure there are good reasons for it. So next time you desire a cool lemon drink, drive on past the kids ruining our neighborhood. It's probably no more than a 20-minute trip anyway. I was sold that this was real until the last sentence.
I can't believe the lady from the Little K had all that free time for the HOA.
I really wish that was real all the way.
So you told the story about the Little K on the radio?
Yeah, that's how we opened the show.
That's what she deserves for doing that to a kid whose dad is on the radio.
Well, I mean,
did you say, do you know who I am?
No, I did not.
He just assumed she did.
Yeah.
I did.
He also was wearing his "I'm Jason Anderson from Radio" shirt, which I thought helped.
My wife was wearing what I make her wear every day, which is an 810 shirt with the Zone. And my son has an arrow that says, "I'm with stupid host of the Zone," with an arrow pointing there. And then my daughter was, "My daddy's my hero," because come on.
I mean,
come on, everybody.
Father's Day.
What was the funniest for you, Drake?
I enjoyed for Father's Day the Braves were going to have the father of one of their players throw out the first pitch. Charlie Culberson's dad was going to throw out that pitch to celebrate Father's Day, and then right before the game they DFA'd Charlie Culberson.
Oh no!
Yeah, so they ended up having to have Michael Harris's dad throw out the first pitch.
This was
but my favorite part of this whole thing was they DFA'd Charlie Culberson to bring up a guy whose name was Chadwick Trump. Which it doesn't sound like a real.
No.
It sounds like a totally Chadwick Trump.
I think I've heard of that guy.
That guy's parents are members at Los Angeles Country Club.
Yeah. They're members at Wyndham Clark.
Damn it! They just got back from the Wyndham Clark in Cabo. Oh man, I wish I'd have said that my son had a shirt that had an arrow that said "I'm with James." So much better. Oh my! Can you plan that? How can you DFA him that one more day? One day.
Or at least wait till after the first pitch.
After the first pitch, the DFA. Was his dad in attendance there?
Well, yeah, his dad was throwing out the first.
I know, but like, his
did he stick around?
But did he know like the day before that you're going to be DFA tomorrow? So hey, Dad, don't fly into. Oh, that's awful. My funniest has something to do with Father's Day as well. And Jordan Love, now the presumed starting quarterback of the Packers, he had a Father's Day message for people out there. Let's take a listen to Jordan Love's Father's Day message.
Happy Father's Day to all the Bears fans out there. Go Pack Go.
And he had a little laugh at the end there, which is funny because he had Father's Day to Bears fans. What he didn't realize is when you're wishing somebody happy Father's Day, that means they're the kid.
Yeah.
They're the father. And he roundly got roasted by saying, wait a minute, are you saying the Bears are your fathers? The Bears, you're the kid? He tried to roast the Bears by saying, yep, I'm your daddy. But he wished them a happy Father's Day. And then thought it'd be a good idea to go ahead and post it. So that was my funniest, is Jordan Love off to a great start.
Boy. Yeah. Already having accuracy issues.
Off to a great start. What was the best from the weekend for you, Mick?
Best from the weekend, I just Wyndham Clark. I mean, I can't, like, we were looking up, like, what would a 10 handicap shoot in the U.S. Open? I found out at Augusta. There's a couple of sites. Some people say between 105 and 110. Others are like, you'd be lucky to shoot under 120. We talked about on the air. One of the questions was, what would Mick shoot at the U.S. Open? I said I would shoot for double bogey each time, which I play for double bogey, which would be 108. But with that rough, I'm not exactly, really, accurate off the tee. With that rough, I mean, you're taking a stroke off there. The distance is going to take off a stroke. I don't think I could do 108. So I said 120, and who knows, that might be enough. But I was thinking at the time, the 60-foot putt to win the U.S. Open, two putt to win the U.S. Open, and he puts it within 6 inches. It was just amazing. And I was just thinking at the time, okay, how many times would it take me to, with all that gallery there, to 60-foot putt to two-putt it?
I think the
120
again.
I think the chip on 17 right now was a little more impressive. I think it was 16 or 17, but on 17 when he totally missed it left in his approach, and then he chips it within like 3 inches of the cup. And
those are all tap-ins, man.
Okay, this guy's winning this one. He's now locked in. What was your best from the weekend, Drake?
I just had a great Father's Day weekend. Went to a couple of different concerts. Went to the sporting match. Went to the Royals game. Got to see my dad and hang out with my kids. It was a good time.
That's awesome, man. My best was Samad Taylor in the walk-off hit on Saturday night. Josh, what was your best from the
You
weekend?
call me Joshua Bradley Bielsko from here on out, because Super Team round 3 for the Suns. We're trying again.
Is he a star still? Is he that good still? What are we calling Bradley Beal?
We're calling him a Supermax player who's getting $50 million in a few years still.
It's paid like a star.
Is he still? Is he's even the Chris Bosh of that?
Yeah, he can be the Chris Bosh of that trio. Absolutely, that's a good call.
Is he the Chalmers?
He's hopefully but the Suns are going to trade DeAndre Ayton to try to find a few Mario Chalmers.
Well, maybe you'll get one. Maybe you can actually get Mario Chalmers.
I'll take it.
DiVincenzo is going to be a free agent. Or Chinzo. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Wrap up the show next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the
All right, thank you, Mick. Appreciate you coming in and hanging out, man.
Thank you.
You did the Lord's work is what you did. So nice job, man.
I skipped church yesterday, so.
Well, you
Should
played
have.
golf, so there you go.
Off and scramble. Lose to the Harrises.
Lost
Is
the
that right?
damn Harrises. Yeah.
Harrises again?
Man.
Hate the Harrises,
Mike
man.
and Heather.
The worst. The worst. If there's one Mike that I hate, it's him. And if there's one Heather, it's her.
Do you have a strategy for next year?
Make sure Mike and Heather don't get
Take
in.
them out, yeah. Adopt some older kids that are more athletic.
Cut the brake line of Mike and Heather.
Hey, I know a really athletic kid who might be looking for a new home. He's too big for the little K.
Yeah.
We'll bring him.
He's trying to be Pasquatch in left field now.
Sprains, strains, and fractures happen in everyday life and while playing sports, and sometimes you need care immediately. That's where the University of Kansas Health System's orthopedic same-day care can help. Open weekdays 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at I-435 and Knoll in Overland Park. You can walk in and see an orthopedic